This is a choice. Thank you for choosing us, along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. So great to have you with us today and every day in your home for the Big 12 Conference. Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and streaming on Big 12 Studios, which you could find out where we are at big12studios.com. Once again, happy Veterans Day to all of the veterans who served in our armed forces for this great nation, and of course the family members for those who served as well. As veterans are not just about those who serve, but their families who are serving along with them. What's up, James? How are you?
Man, I'm good. Locked in for a Tuesday. Got a lot to get to. Excited to talk with our good buddy Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports about everything happening in the Big 12. And he is a tremendous voice for the Big 12 Conference digitally with everything he does for CBS Sports. But on a Tuesday, there's injury news. There's basketball stuff going on. I'm just glad that we're matching to a certain degree today. It's a dusty blue Tuesday, apparently. Love the look.
Thank you.
You look like you just found out that your NIL deal is taxable. Ari's one Bluetooth earbud away from giving a TED Talk about grit this afternoon. Excited for that. Locked in, dialed in, and ready.
No, you are on point this morning, and I appreciate that about you. What's so on point about you, and people can't see this now, but the bottom of your pants are cuffed up like your Huckleberry Finn here. I mean, you really want to show people that you're wearing no-show socks, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, no-show socks, a lot of ankle. You know, it's an aerodynamic look that I'm going for today with the ankle, but also I also want to give you a pat on the back and a big thank you from the Westling house. Because you called me out for not doing much around the house a couple of weeks ago, and since then, my wife has seen a difference. Okay, I'm basically a Ty Pennington Mr. Clean hybrid. Yesterday, I'm fixing the freezer, I'm taking out the trash, got all the recycling out, did 2 loads of laundry, dishes, I'm folding towels.
Wow.
Full service.
A brand new James has emerged.
Full service. That freezer is running like a top now.
What was once a caterpillar is now a fully birthed moth.
I think it's butterfly.
Yeah. You're more of a moth.
Beautiful butterfly.
You're more of a beige moth.
So,
Producer Taban?
I think he got jealous of the robot. He made a robot, so he had to step up his game.
Yeah, the AI robot.
Yeah, I think
that
he
was
got
pretty
jealous
frustrating.
of it.
It was pretty frustrating, that whole
He had
deal.
to show him who's boss.
You know, I told you we had a very exciting Sunday in the Westling house because we cleaned out our closet, which our closet is massive. Okay, you could fit 2 queen-sized mattresses in that closet. We bought the house, I'm convinced, because my wife fell in love with the closet. Like, her bathroom is a bathroom for ants. It's super small. She gets ready every morning in this really small, congested area, but then has this massive closet. And so I found this banger of a shirt when we were doing all that, buried behind all of her and my stuff. Pretty sure this shirt is from the Bush administration, but I'm here for it. It feels good. I'm ready.
So you have one closet?
Yeah, we share a massive closet.
Interesting.
What do you got going on over there?
It's just a weird non-shareable thing for a couple, no?
It's a weird non-shareable thing?
A closet? Yeah, a closet's a very intimate, very personal.
Intimate? What are you doing in that closet?
I mean, I'm just saying, I don't want anybody messing in my closet, whether that be my wife or anybody else. That's mine, okay? That's my stuff.
I mean, so you guys have 2 separate closets.
Separate but equal.
What do you got going on, Taman?
My wife and I share a closet. It's a pretty decent-sized closet.
Okay.
I think having more than one closet is a luxury. So that's a luxury item.
I agree with that.
I mean, if you ever sold that baby, that'd be like the first line.
First line.
Him and her closets.
Yes, absolutely.
We have
First
our
line.
sides. She has her side, I have my side. It's a good, decent size.
How do you differentiate?
Well, I have a very small pocket kind of in the back corner, and then she has everything else.
78% of it?
Oh, easily that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got a lot going on.
Might be time for just a little bit of an addition so that James can have 100% of his own closet.
Well, we did a purge. We did a purge this weekend, and I feel better about that. I can see my stuff now.
But now that you're doing more around the house, maybe it's justifiable that you get a little bit more closet space. Can we get my guy James some more closet space? Can we carve out maybe, I don't know, another 10%?
Thank you. Thank
Especially
you.
now that you're actually
Preach.
doing things around the house instead of just sitting around
Preach.
doing nothing.
Oh yeah, making the kids dinner. I mean, it was a whole day.
Making the kids dinner.
Oh yeah, yeah. No afternoon nap yesterday. It was
What kind of dinner did you make?
I mean, dinner is throwing chicken nuggets in the oven.
Got it. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So you warmed up some chicken nuggets.
Actually, last night I didn't even do that. She did that, but there have been.
You were rolling, James. You were rolling. You
Have
messed up
been,
there.
there have been evenings. Okay?
I think it's important to define the words that we use. And so like cooking means something totally different than what I would do to prepare food for my children, which is what you've just described.
Yeah.
You didn't cook anything.
No, I don't.
Because cooking implies there was like things
I
and
think cooking is a very universal term that I think should.
well,
just
it's
be
a verb.
should
and
be
it's
free
you know,
to use. Anything food related.
I just think the implication of it is far greater than what you've been doing.
It sounds a lot better than I prepared a meal. I took hot dogs out of the fridge and cut them up. I put some water in a mac and cheese cup, grabbed an applesauce packet. It just feels like a lot of work.
Yeah, no, it is. That's James Westling on social at James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin on social at Ari Sports. This is Big 12 Radio presented by you, not you, James, but everybody else, the full-time fan by Modelo. Did you watch Monday Night Football last night? Of course you didn't, because you're not a full-time fan. But the rest of the folks here watching, listening, tuning in are full-time fans. Did you watch?
No, because the Chiefs are on a bye. I mean, the Chiefs own Monday night and Sunday night football, and the Chiefs weren't on last night. They're on a bye.
It was a barn burner. 10-7 was the final between the Eagles and the Packers.
Wow.
Yeah.
First time in NFL history where the first game of the week, the primetime game on Thursday, ended 10-7, and the last primetime game of the week, Monday night, ended 10-7. Little known
Sweet.
fact.
Now I could die now that I know
Gross.
that.
No, we're really into that show on Apple TV, Priebus. It's got a 1 in there. I'm not really sure what they're doing with that. But it's from Vince Gilligan.
Okay,
Breaking
yeah,
Bad,
yeah.
Better Call Saul guy.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting 9.0 out of 10 on IMDb,
Wow.
which is like the second highest rated show ever behind Breaking Bad. It's higher than Game of Thrones. It's higher than Ozark. It's higher than all the bangers in recent memory. 2 episodes have dropped, and they are...
Pluribus.
Is that how you'd say that? There's a 1 in there.
Yeah. Yeah, Pluribus.
Yeah, it just dropped. 2
Post-apocalyptic science fiction psychological thriller.
episodes. Yeah.
Man, if we another post-apocalyptic science fiction psychological thriller, these are starting to become a little bit too close to home. You know what I mean? Like some of these shows, they're like, oh yeah, this is like the post-apocalyptic world, and it's like, oh, I could totally see that happening. I could totally see
Oh, yeah.
a world in which robots have taken over and we're basically armed to the teeth, fighting each other to the
Yeah.
death.
You got to watch the movie Companion. I think it's on one of the streaming services now, about this robot mail-ordered girlfriend that you can whatever. It's very, very realistic.
Normally when I get a recommendation from a friend, I'm like, yeah, cool. You'll tell me the show. I'll never remember it, and then it'll be great.
Yeah,
We'll just-
I think it's only getting like 7 out of 10 ratings,
oh,
but it's the realism of it.
yeah.
Kind of freaked me out. Yeah, Vince Gilligan, he hadn't done anything since Better Call Saul. You know, he did Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. He's in his late 50s now, and this is his new one.
This is his swan song.
Yeah, so if you're a Breaking Bad fan, this one hits.
All right. So, okay, yesterday, did Joey McGuire take a shot at Notre Dame? Is that what he was doing? Let's take a listen. Joey McGuire, the head coach of Texas Tech, was talking, and I think this was actually following the game on Saturday, not yesterday. I beg your pardon. But here's what Joey McGuire said. Tell me if you think this is taking a shot at Notre Dame.
I was really excited whenever they joined the Big 12 because I think that they carry a lot of weight and a lot of respect. I think that I have a lot of respect for them entering a conference and not playing an independent schedule like other people. Y'all already know who that is. And so I have a lot of respect for that. I mean, they're earning their right just like everybody but a couple of people in the nation are earning their right through conference play, you know, and playing in some really tough places.
Is that a shot at Notre Dame?
Well, how would you define shot?
Right, because he basically said, like, he has more respect for BYU as opposed to the other school that he doesn't name. So is saying I have less respect for them because they play an independent schedule a knock on Notre Dame? Taking a shot at Notre Dame?
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, he's clearly talking about Notre Dame. There's only two schools in the country that are playing an independent schedule, and it's Notre Dame and UConn.
You don't think he was talking about UConn?
Yeah, I don't think he was talking about a UConn. Although their quarterback, Joe Fignano, has 25 touchdowns and 0 interceptions.
Yeah, they're good.
They are good under Jim Mora. And they're holding out for a power conference bid. They've been invited to join the Mountain West and the MAC, and they turned both of those down because they've got their sights set on something better. So, yeah, this is clearly Notre Dame that he's talking about. And maybe if he didn't add the y'all already know who that is line, we would be overlooking it a little bit more. But Notre Dame fans are all over it. And I think the reason is because when you look at where Notre Dame is in the college football rankings that will come out tonight officially, and where they are in the AP Top 25 and the schedule that they've played outside of those first two games, it's pretty light, and it's pretty light each and every year. It's why they were in the college football playoff last year with a loss to Northern Illinois. So it's definitely a shot at Notre Dame, and I think Texas Tech and Notre Dame are going to be pretty close when the rankings come out.
Yeah, Notre Dame, it's really interesting because it's almost as if nothing offends Notre Dame fans more than this. Just in hearing reaction and seeing some of the social media reaction from Notre Dame fans, it's just overwhelmingly upset. And then throwing shots at Texas Tech and for everything they haven't done. And I mean, I saw one that was like, Joey McGuire is coaching high school football and Marcus Freeman's not even 40 and he's already played for a national championship. It's like, slow down, slugger. You're okay. You're okay, Notre Dame. We got you. Touchdown, Jesus. We know. You're basically given a playoff spot every year as long as you go through your independent schedule with only 2 or less losses, which appears to be the case this year. And look, I mean, I think there is an important difference between playing an independent schedule versus playing a conference schedule. And we could talk through like the obvious differences here. But like, to me, there are certain teams that they will play consistently every year, but that's only a few teams. And I know the conferences have ballooned to where there's not as much consistency across the board with scheduling, but I think having a consistent familiarity with teams year over year, that is more difficult to game plan for. In some ways, it could be viewed as easier because you have a greater familiarity with the players, but I think that means because that's true for both sides. So you have to go deeper to a degree to get that. Whereas in some of these one-off games Notre Dame plays, they could surprise some people. The opposite could be true with how they scheme or game plan for games. So I just think playing in a conference, it's more difficult simply because there's a level of familiarity with the teams that makes it more difficult to game plan for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like, I don't have a problem with Notre Dame's schedule this season. Typically they play comparable opponents. I mean, they basically have built an ACC schedule. They play Miami in the non-conference. Then they played Texas A&M, and then Purdue and Arkansas. So some Big Ten and SEC flavor there. NC State, Southern Cal, Boston College. They play Navy every year. There's a lot of history there. And then Pitt and Syracuse and Stanford, all ACC schools to wrap up the season. So essentially they're playing an ACC schedule. I think it's just the fact that they're coming off a win against a Group of 5 opponent in Navy, who is a very solid football team, but they're still a Group of 5 opponent. And this deep into the season in the month of November, when you're playing a G5 opponent, it's hard to justify that you have the pedigree of somebody in the Big 12 or the Big 10 or the SEC. But I think the message here from Joey McGuire, like, you don't punch up like this unless you're super confident. And so it tells me that he feels and Texas Tech feels that they have that swagger and that they've arrived in a lot of ways. There's also kind of a side note here that Texas Tech's general manager, James Blanchard, was who Notre Dame targeted in the offseason for their general manager vacancy, and he turned him down. So turning down Notre Dame to stay at Texas Tech says a lot about his loyalty, but also just the fact that Texas Tech isn't just some stepping stone job anymore. If it even was, if you're comparing the two programs, it definitely isn't now. And this is also kind of the Big 12's, identity. We're not afraid to be bold and brash and unfiltered in some ways. And so I love it from Joey McGuire. Bring it on.
It's a great point. It's funny because it doesn't seem to fit the profile of Joey McGuire personally.
Right.
Like from a personality standpoint, he's like everybody loves Joey. He's a very genuine, unique coach and individual, and so this doesn't seem to fit. But it's great. To your point, like it's brash. He's going after a fan base. He's becoming an enemy to a degree to that fan base. It's fantastic. I also love like putting Notre Dame fans in their place because it feels like the invention of the playoff was just a pass to get Notre Dame some wins because they don't have very many significant bowl wins of substance. You have to go back to 1994, Notre Dame's last national championship, when the Cotton Bowl in '94, I should say, when they defeated Texas A&M. They're 0-8. When you think about last major bowl victories, their last national championship was '88. Their last major bowl victory was '94. They've gone 0-8 in major bowl games since 1994, including the Fiesta Bowl loss to Oregon State in 2000, the Fiesta Bowl loss to Ohio State in 2006, BCS national championship bludgeoning by Alabama in 12, the semifinal bludgeoning by Clemson in 18, and the Alabama bludgeoning in the Rose Bowl in 2020. I mean, they haven't even been close in some of these games. So it's been basically 30 years, aside from what they did last year. But again, they're now getting opportunities to win significant games because of this expanded playoff, which is giving programs opportunities to win more games than they used to when it was only 2 or 4 teams in the field.
Right. And their strength of schedule right now, according to ESPN's resume metrics, their analytics, they give Notre Dame the 30th ranked schedule in the country. And their schedule isn't going to get tougher down the stretch because they play Syracuse and Boston College. Pitt's a little bit of a tough game for them. But, I mean, their toughest games are behind them. And they're 30th in the country in strength of schedule. When you look at the Big 12, what's the overarching narrative is that, the Big 12 doesn't play anybody in the Big 12. Their strength of schedule and the conference is all competitive balance. Well, this year, that's definitely not the case. I mean, there's 3 top 25 teams in the Big 12 in terms of strength of schedule alone, and that's BYU, Oklahoma State, and Arizona State. And then they're mixed in with all of the SEC and Big 10 teams whose strength of schedule gets skyrocketed because of the weight of playing these conference games and the weight that ESPN puts into playing an SEC opponent and playing a Big 10 opponent. But the Big 12 strength of schedule metrics look much better than it did this time last year. So there's growth from that angle as well.
Speaking of saying some crazy things, and I don't think that this was crazy, but what Greg Sankey said yesterday was fairly crazy. We'll get into that coming up. Plus, let's talk quarterbacks. That's all on the way next as we continue with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Radio, brought to you by the Full-Time Fan by Modelo. Are you a full-time fan? Grab yourself some ice-cold and refreshing Modelo's. With James Westling, I'm Ari Temkin. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Broadcasting live on the Big 12 Radio Studios. Check us out at big12studios.com, where you can see all the places you can stream us and watch us, whether it be Tubi, Roku, Amazon Prime Video, YouTube, plenty of other platforms. And, of course, we're always available on the TuneIn app. And, of course, if you miss any of our great segments, guests, what have you, you can check us out on demand on the TuneIn app or wherever you get your podcasts. Just go to Apple or Spotify or anywhere else where you get podcasts and search Big 12 Radio. With James Westling, I am Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. James, we got Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports coming up, and he has his piece, 72 Hours in Lubbock, Inside Texas Tech's historic win against BYU. We'll talk with him coming up in about 20 minutes from now.
I'm excited to hear what a guy who has lived most of his life in Dallas and went to Baylor, what he says about his 72 hours in Lubbock. But is this the death of the quarterback era? Has college football moved on from that position? On this Veterans Day Tuesday, thought we could highlight some of these veteran quarterbacks and the shift that we are seeing that I think has been magnified this season in college football, where we were told coming into this year that 2025 was going to be the year of the quarterback. Not necessarily just in the Big 12, I mean nationally. And I think as it turns out, when you look at who's at the top of the college football world, we find that college football might not be a quarterback-defiant sport anymore. And this is the second year in a row where teams that win the line of scrimmage, teams that lean on their defense, those are the teams that are in the conversation for those top 4 seeds in the college football playoff rankings and buys when we get to the field. And you think about the quarterbacks nationally that were supposed to be top 5, top 10 NFL draft picks. Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, Lenoris Sellers at South Carolina, Drew Aller at Penn State. Nussmeier's expected to be a mid-day 2 pick. Everybody else is completely flying way below preseason expectations for where they're going to be drafted. And then you look at the Big 12, and I think the Big 12 has exemplified that when you look at these 2 teams at the top right now in BYU and Texas Tech. Texas Tech has the best defense they've ever had, and a quarterback who's rock solid in Baron Morton, one of the top quarterbacks in the country, in efficiency. But he's not putting up the yards and the touchdowns that Patrick Mahomes did when he was at Texas Tech. I think everybody's so used to having a Baker Mayfield or a Patrick Mahomes walking through the door and saving their program, but that's not necessarily championship DNA anymore. It's more so about the line of scrimmage. And the Big 12 is in a really good spot with some of these veteran quarterbacks like a Baron Morton, like a Brendan Sorsby at Cincinnati, who's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the country. But he's not top 10. He's not top 20 in yards and touchdowns. And then Rocco Becht is another guy who willed his team to a victory, even though his numbers weren't great. Devin Dampier is a guy who's played a lot of football, but he's not putting up Michael Vick type numbers. So I think that this quarterback era that we've seen in college football really started to shift when Georgia was winning their national championships with Stetson Bennett at quarterback. And I think it's more leaning that way, where it's more about the line of scrimmage and the team than just that position.
You think that is the wave, that's the standard now, that's the norm, as opposed to maybe these last couple of years of the anomaly? Because I think it's a great point. I mean, Will Howard led Ohio State to a national championship last year.
And beat Riley Leonard in the title.
And that's not a knock on either of those guys, but to your point, those guys aren't difference makers at the quarterback position. Neither of them were top picks. There was one quarterback taken in the first round this past year, and it was Cam Ward, a guy that didn't even play in the playoff. So, I mean, it's really interesting, but I guess my question to you would be, do you think that this is the standard of the norm, or do you think this is more of an anomaly right now?
I think it could get back to what it used to be, but I do think that for the foreseeable future, with this NIL transfer portal era that we live in, I do think that we're going to see more seasons like last year and this year. I don't think this is just a one-off type deal, because I think in the transfer portal you can go out and you can target offensive and defensive linemen, and you can build at the line of scrimmage and build your team that way, which I think has been the focus. And there's not as large of a talent pool in the line of scrimmage, and there's not a bunch of Jacob Rodriguez's walking around college football right now. So when you have those guys, I think that we are seeing more programs go that route. And I don't know if the line of scrimmage playing field gets leveled to a certain degree, then maybe the next Caleb Williams or Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson, those type of guys reemerge. But right now in college football, and then the other aspect, which this is way over my head, is I've had a lot of college football coaches tell me in meetings that like the quarterbacks just aren't that good anymore. And I don't know if that has to do with the transfer portal or NIL, or there's so many new pieces around them that just it takes longer for that chemistry to develop. That part of it, that's just speculation on my part. Maybe this has just been a down couple of years at that position, but we haven't had those big high-profile names the last couple of seasons, and I don't know what next year or the year after that looks like, but right now, just based off of what we've seen the last 2 or 3 years, I think we're in this era where it's all about defense and line of scrimmage.
You know, it's really interesting you bring this up. I think this is such an interesting topic because, so you think back to the 2024 NFL Draft, 7 quarterbacks were taken in the first round, including the top 3 picks, top 4 picks, 3 of the top 5. I mean, obviously, Caleb Williams was 1, Jaden Daniels was 2, and I believe Drake May was 3. And then McCarthy was shortly thereafter. You had Bo Nix that went in the first round, and then Michael Penix. I think, am I missing anybody?
No, you've got it. So it was Williams, Daniels, May, and then Michael Penix. Remember, Atlanta reached for him. He'd blown out his knee right before the draft. J.J. McCarthy was 10. Bo Nix was 12.
So Penix was 7.
Number 8.
8. So you had how many quarterbacks taken in the first 12 picks?
3, 4, 5 in the top 10, 6 in the top 12 that year.
7 overall in the first round?
And no.
Just 6.
6.
I don't know why I had the number 7 in my head, but 6 taken in the first round. You wonder, too, if some of that was NFL general managers projecting ahead and thinking, we've got to get a quarterback now because we don't like what the next couple of classes bring to the table. Mm-hmm. I mean, and you might be thinking, like, that sounds like a crazy amount of foresight from decision makers in the NFL, but I mean, look, they're looking at the blue chip ratio and they're looking at 5-star and 4-star prospects as much as we are, because traditionally the guys that become the number 1 picks or top 5 picks, they're all 4 or 5-star quarterbacks coming out. So, like, it's not a huge surprise. Most of these guys don't really come from nowhere to do this. And so I wonder too if, again, like, if we're looking towards the NFL, if they said and projected out, like, we better get a quarterback today because the next 2 drafts, at least of the quarterback position, don't look very good. That could be part of it. I think it is cyclical. Now, I do think one of the things, this might not actually work in the favor of the Big 12, meaning, so we've talked a lot about the blue chip ratio, the need to have talent. No team has ever won a national championship in the modern recruiting era without having, 50% of the roster be 4 or 5-star recruits every 4-year period. It's important stat to know just because it gives some context. So Texas Tech and Indiana are 2 top teams that are expected to be playoff teams that are not blue chip ratio teams. So could they win a national championship and buck that trend? I think, like, Texas Tech is good up front on both sides of the ball, but that's no different than Ohio State or Georgia, right? So maybe the advantage the Big 12 or a Big 12 program might have in that context would be having an otherworldly quarterback. Maybe that's Fernando Mendoza. Maybe that's a guy we're overlooking right now who I guess is the presumptive QB1, according to some of the people who study the draft. So maybe that's a reason for Indiana to win it. It just feels like you're not going to out-body big bodies from Ohio State, from Georgia, from the top dogs. Like, that's just what they do. Look at the NFL draft every year. They're littered with Georgia and Ohio State and other players from those types of programs that are pass rushers, defensive linemen, offensive linemen, right? So, like, even though, again, Texas Tech may have the best defensive line in football, like, Ohio State's got a really good offensive line every year. So it just, for me, it's not exactly the most optimistic viewpoint of the Big 12, because I think in some ways you could paint a really lovely picture for the Big 12. On the other side of that, though, it's like, well, maybe the Big 12 needs a incredible performance from quarterbacks to get over the hump, because they're not going to outbody those big boys up front.
Right. And that's a really good point. And, Texas Tech, I think, is showing that, and we'll find out in the college football playoff, but at least in terms of what they've done on paper so far defensively, they're a team that I do think can compete with that model. BYU is another one that, Bear Bachmeier's been fine. He doesn't play like a freshman. He's been really good, but he's not been top 10, top 20 nationally good, but everything else around him. And then also, I think about Ohio State and their run last year. Yeah, they had Will Howard at quarterback, who was above average, but they did have elite playmaking wide receivers paired with a really good defense. And so I think if you still have those playmaking running backs or receivers that can be game breakers, maybe that's the difference. Those are difference makers offensively. But it's just been a weird year. Like, why was Texas preseason number 1, right? Arch Manning, because of their quarterback. And we all have seen how that's played out. Dylan Raiola at Nebraska, they were supposed to have a major breakthrough year this year. That one hasn't checked out.
Yeah.
And then it's been guys like Ty Simpson at Alabama who's had a really good year. Baron Morton has been solid at Texas Tech. Even the top quarterbacks in the Big 12 on paper are playing for the teams that aren't the best teams this year. So I think it just magnifies that it's so much more about what you have around these guys now, maybe than ever before in college football nationally.
Yeah, I mean, and just to further that point, James, you've got, like, I'll never forget, it was Sonny Dykes that said, hey, we went back and looked, and like the teams that win up front in line of scrimmage and run the football the best are the teams that win the Big 12, right? Like, it wasn't the most eye-opening thing, but it was interesting from the standpoint of, like, it's definitely proven itself out. And TCU went on to have a great season that year, based on that research that Sonny Dykes did. And, it's funny because I picked Baylor to win the Big 12 because I thought, well, one, they'd have the best running game, but they also had the best quarterback. And I think that might be the issue here, right? Instead of figuring out who could win this conference by who has the best quarterback, it probably should have an evaluation of who has the best running game. Because right now, like, the top 3 running games in the Big 12 are that of Texas Tech, BYU, and Utah.
Yeah.
The 3 best teams in the conference also have the best running games. I don't know that they have the top 3 quarterbacks. They probably don't. I'm not even sure where you'd rank those quarterbacks in the top 10 of the Big 12, but certainly not top 3.
Right. And I think another layer to this whole new era of college football is I would argue that defenses are ahead of offenses right now in college football. We had that air raid era of college football where games were in the 40s and the 50s and even the 60s here in the Big 12. And now everything comes full circle. Now we have transitioned back to the best teams in college football are the teams with the best defenses. Texas A&M makes opposing offenses a nightmare. Indiana's been leaning on their defense. Ohio State and Alabama and the Oregon-Iowa game was 18-16. And BYU and Texas Tech was 29-7. I mean, if you had told me 5 years ago that in a game of that magnitude that the team that wins the game and wins it by 22 only got to 29 points, I would have said you're absolutely crazy. So there is a shift right now that I think is happening in college football when you look at the overall landscape of the sport. And I don't know how many years it'll take for offenses to reemerge in terms of being ahead of the defense. But I think that just these defensive coordinators and the schematics and all the different blitzing angles and the gap assignments and everything else that they're throwing at offenses right now, they're the ones that are winning in the sport.
Yeah, it is interesting, too, because I think it's flipped from 5 years ago when it felt like offenses were so far ahead of defenses.
Definitely.
And even in the National Football League, it was like you've got to build and address everything on the offensive side of the ball because that's, you're incentivized to do that. I mean, the penalties are set up to give an advantage to the offenses. And I wonder if because of that, as a correction, officials have become more allowing more physicality. Maybe that's the change that's skewed back towards defenses because it seemed like many of the rules and much of the, of the advantages were given to the offensive side of the football. And I think you're right. Like right now, defenses do feel like they're ahead of offenses, and it wasn't that long ago where it was the exact opposite of it.
Definitely. And you think about like these gadget guys offensively that burst onto the scene in college football, and Now you've got almost those type of guys on the defensive side of the ball. Like Jacob Rodriguez is basically playing positionless football. He's not even really a linebacker. He's a safety, linebacker, defensive end, cornerback hybrid.
Yeah.
You know, he can play all over the field. And there's a bunch of guys on rosters that I see that, you know, will be 6 foot, 210, 6'1", 210, 220. And you're like, is this a linebacker? Is this an edge rusher? Is this a safety? Where does this guy play on the field? And they line up, and they're all over the field. And defensive coordinators are getting really creative in terms of twisting up front. You still have your old school defensive tackles, but then you've got guys that'll line up all over the place, and they'll shift pre-snap, and they're moving guys around, and they're blitzing from different angles, and it's confusing the offenses now. Whereas 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, it was totally inverse, where you had all these offenses that were a total nightmare to prepare for.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Radio. On the way next, our buddy Shahan Jayarajah from CBS Sports. 72 hours in Lubbock inside Texas Tech's historic win against BYU. We'll get into that with him. But the chase to the championship is on. This is the Big 12. This is a different league. John Pardee will perform at halftime of the Big 12 football championship, which kicks off at 11 a.m. Central on Saturday, December 6th at AT&T Stadium. We are less than a month away, and of course the game will be broadcasted on ABC. John is the Big 12's first country music headliner, and its football championship. He'll be joined in the performance by the marching bands from both participating universities. If you missed it last year, it was an incredible experience to see the performer along with those marching bands. There will be a party pit of premium experience in front of the stage with tickets available to purchase. You're not going to want to miss that. Join John's recent hit, Mr. Saturday Night, has been featured in a number of Big 12 football championship spots during game broadcasts. Tickets for the 2025 Big 12 football championship are on sale exclusively through SeatGeek. With James Wesley, I'm Ari Tepkin. Shahan Jayarajah is next. This is Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. This is Big 12 Today, along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. Taman Turner is producing. Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, here on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. Talking now with our buddy Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports. Shahan's piece, 72 Hours in Lubbock, inside Texas Tech's historic win against BYU, a moment 17 years in the making. Morning, Shahan. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate your time as always. Before we get into this piece, I've been wondering, and I'm curious, why hasn't anybody written the piece about oil money and Texas Tech spending it to procure good players?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely something that we haven't heard about. I mean, I'm very excited for the broadcast to tell us too that Jacob Rodriguez's wife is active military. That would be the first time I've heard that as well. But it's fascinating, right? Because I think that people, and actually it's kind of funny, obviously, I think that something that shapes the way that I'm able to cover this moment in this piece now is that, I was at Baylor in the mid-2010s, and I think that people just want so much like an excuse or an explanation that feels simple about all this stuff, and I think that people are getting very lost in kind of the A block of this story. And there's a B block and a C block and so many levels to this. But,
great point.
Listen, if people want to let me do the rest of it, I'm happy to do it.
Shahan, what are the A, B, and C blocks of the Texas Tech story?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I mean, look, obviously the money is significant. We're not going to sit here and pretend that it's not. But there's a couple of things. I mean, first of all, this is a roster that was very. I think that there's a piece of it that is very much here's how we approach spending our money, and here's specifically where we invested heavily, and of course that is the trenches, right? I think that they invested so much in the trenches, and yeah, they added bit players at defensive back and at wide receiver, but most of the money and most of the investment was in the trenches, especially the defensive line. I think there's also the perspective of, look, I mean, I think that when you look at this team, I mean, they brought in so many guys from disparate backgrounds and different places. I mean, I think that there's a story about, you just have to integrate all these guys. Some of them who are making a ton of money, some of them who are making not very much money. And I mean, I think that this is a human story of having to make those concessions and get people to integrate and do all this sort of stuff. And then I think that you have that sort of C block of this moment in West Texas and Lubbock history, not even getting into the Texas Tech of it all, where people understand there's this huge opportunity and it's time to go out there. And I think that all these sort of disparate storylines are coming together at this moment. And I think it's what made the BYU game especially so exciting.
Yeah, and just to further that point, Shahan, I'm not sure that Joey McGuire will win Coach of the Year nationally simply because of the money piece, but what we're missing in that is exactly what you just described. It's the ability, and this is what we talked to Joey about at Media Days. It's on him. The talent's there. Now it's on him to bring it all together. And Romello Height has been at 4 different schools at least. A bunch of these guys are mercenaries that have no incentive to help and buy in other than I'm trying to get to the league. So I think to your point, money's one thing, but we've seen lots of, talent come together that didn't really amount to much.
No, and I think that the other thing too is that, I know you guys have gotten a chance to talk to people at Texas Tech. I mean, you got to be in their building and you got to talk to their players. The way that they talk is just frankly bizarre for, like you said, a team that has at least a handful of mercenaries on it, in how you traditionally talk about it. And I talked to Kirby Hocutt, the athletic director over at Texas Tech, and frankly, I mean, I talked about we talked about so much stuff that didn't make it into the piece. But one thing that I asked him about is, Texas Tech has a number of people and players who, yes, I mean, some of them have come for money, some of them have come for other reasons, whatever. But there's sort of this deep-seated relationship that people seem to have with Texas Tech and West Texas that, I mean, look, everybody is close with their college, with their alma mater, but there's just something unusual about it. One thing that Kirby Hocutt has on his table in his office is he has a jersey that was sent and signed by Terrence Shannon, the basketball player who started at Texas Tech, transferred to Illinois, finished his career at Illinois, I think got his number retired, like, all this sort of stuff. But, like, he still feels a very deep connection to Kirby Hoka and Texas Tech and Lubbock, Texas. Like, there's no good reason that should be the case, right? Like, and I think that, Nyjah Kennedy, the softball player, obviously she came, to compete and she was the first $1 million player. They've not been shy about that. But, like, she's out there at the tailgate. She's out there at the camp out. Like, she's a part of this. And in a way that I think, again, is just a little unusual. And I just have talked to so many players who even transferred in who, like, again, the level to which people buy into this coach, Joey McGuire, these leaders, Jacob Rodriguez, Baron Morton, et cetera, and this place, Texas Tech and Lubbock, Texas. Again, I mean, I just do feel like they understand I am part of something special, and I darn well better sit back and do my job.
Shahan, I think when people talk about Texas Tech outside of the Big 12 community, everybody talks about how they bought their roster, and it's almost with a tone that they're hoping or they think that Texas Tech is just going to go away after this season. Based off of the success with this transfer portal experiment, if you want to call it that, like after your time out there, do you get the sense that they're going to do this year after year? I would think their transfer portal class, once again, is going to be absolutely stacked because of all the selling points you were talking about.
Well, that's the thing, right? And I spoke to Joey McGuire preseason about this, and this is one thing that he said was, back in 2006, he was the head coach at Cedar Hill High School, and Cedar Hill had never won a playoff game. But that team went undefeated and won state. And after you have a team like that, everything changes in a place. Because all of a sudden the standard now is, this is what we do. And I think that when you talk about recruiting, Texas Tech has felt like we have great coaches, we have great facilities, we have a great place to be, but we have, obviously they wouldn't say this, but like we have nothing on the wall in terms of trophies. Like we haven't won an outright conference championship since 1955. We're like having to show off like our Independence Bowl trophies. But there's a spot. Actually, they showed to Snapback Sports, who was out there this weekend. There is a spot on the wall open for a Big 12 title trophy. They know how important it is to come home with something like that. So there's a couple pieces of this. One, I think that the reality of Tech and the reality of everybody right now, I think, is that rosters are very timeline dependent because of the cap management, rev share, all that sort of stuff, right? Like, it's not going to be possible the same way to go and spend tens of millions of dollars more than everybody else in the transfer portal. So I think that, like you said, though, it changes from we are investing in you monetarily for you to take a chance on us to you are just being recruited like a normal football player, and we have a great opportunity for you. I was speaking with a staffer who was like, look, here's the reality. How much easier is it to tell Felix Ojo that we can do something great here when I can point to Howard Sampson, who looks just like you and plays just like you? How much easier is it for LaDainian Guyton when you have David Bailey on the roster and you said, we helped him do that? So it goes from obviously a big kind of boom time rush of recruiting of last year to, I think they're just going to be, doing this stuff at a high level like a normal football team heading forward. But obviously they're going to continue to try to find a way to create financial opportunities as well best they can.
Great stuff. All right, Shahan, what was the most memorable part of your 72 hours in Lubbock this weekend?
Oh man, there was so much, needless to say, but the Raiderville campout was just wild, right? Like I've gotten the chance to be around, even for different places that have had college game day and had campouts and all this sort of stuff, but like it was just such a unique environment. Obviously, the size was a big part of it. I mean, it was a huge crowd of people. More than that. The formal number was like 2,200, but there were hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, more people who came out who weren't necessarily formally part of the tailgate or of the camp out. And there were businesses constantly bringing food. There was Texas Tech's football players and basketball players and softball players, like they just kept coming through with, and hanging out and taking pictures. And Jacob Rodriguez played video games against this one other guy. Like it was just such a party. Like it was like a week-long party, which was absolutely just an insane scene. And I will say too, obviously Texas Tech and, kind of their fans are known for being kind of rowdy and all this sort of stuff. But the thing that kind of actually got me most about it is that Texas Tech had a plan, basically. Okay, they started the camp out on Sunday. You're camping out until, through the week. But they actually set it so that the camp out actually ended on Friday, not Saturday. One, so that people could go and get like a good night's sleep was the hope, especially before an 11 a.m. game. I don't know how many people did that, but that was the hope. And also so that fans could go to the basketball game, which was that night. And third, because they wanted a chance to clean everything out. But they actually, I spoke to people in the athletic department. They were shocked with how quickly and how efficiently all these tired, hungover college students packed up at 5:45 a.m. and just went away and followed all the rules. Like I think that's one of the craziest things about this whole weekend is that like everybody followed all the rules. There were no major incidents, and I think that a lot of it has to do because this was such a marathon. But like again, it's just I don't think people would have expected that from Texas Tech.
No, you're right.
Yeah. Raiderville at night after the sun went down looked like a Pitbull concert on social media. It was insane. Man, it looked so cool. I wanted to ask a last one for me is, you said earlier that the Texas Tech AD, Kirby Hocutt, that you guys spent a lot of time together and there was so much there that you couldn't fit into this piece. Do you remember any of the highlights that you got from him?
Yeah, that's a good question, and obviously I'm gonna have to keep trying to find ways to use some of what I got from him down the road. But I think that the biggest thing was, we just talked a lot about kind of the vision of this moment and what it means for West Texas and the other thing, I kind of asked him like, we talk so much about 2008 and Michael Crabtree's catch and even Raiderville from that time. And I kind of asked him, and I spoke to him formally before the game. We actually just ran into each other after the game, and obviously he was very excited. But
was he there in 08? Sorry to cut you off.
He was not. He came in 2011, actually, and so he just missed all of that. But obviously, he was a sitting athletic director. He was at Miami at the time, so he was very familiar with everything that was going on. But this was the first time he got to be a part of it like this, and so all that to say, like I asked him, what does this weekend mean? You see what's happening out there. Like, there's these huge campouts. Like, the game is not just sold out, but super sold out. Like, people kind of packed into every little nook and cranny. Game days here, national TV, game of the weekend, playoff and Big 12 on the line. Like what does this weekend mean and what will it mean? And he was like, look, here's the reality. Like, we're in the here and now. Like, our job right now is to focus on this moment, and we won't know the answer to that question for 10 years. Like, we're going to have to look back in 8 to 10 years and be like, this is when it started. This is when it happened. But, I think that it's just, like, again, I love the mindset of the people over at Texas Tech right now. I think that they are, like, people, like you said, I think that there's this sort of idea that it's like, hey, here's this big oil man throwing money around and, doing crazy stuff. And, like, I think people expect him to be like Jerry Jones or something. And I was actually talking with, I believe it was Dan Murphy from ESPN in the press box. And he spent a lot of time with Cody Campbell. And one thing that we talked about is, like, man, he is, like, shockingly normal. Like he is like you assume he's gonna be this like big boisterous oil man, and he's like kind of quiet. Like, I don't think people realize that. Like, he kind of like, for all the spotlight that he's taken, I think he's actually a little uncomfortable in the spotlight. And but I think that again, it's so easy to write this narrative of crazy oil men come in and buy all the players and all this sort of stuff, and like, I think that it actually to some extent undersells how impressive and how well thought out all of this really is.
Yeah, well said. Shahan J. Raja, CBS Sports. Shahan, it's great to have you on as always. Be well, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Shahan J. Raja from CBS Sports joining us to break down his thoughts from his weekend, 72 hours in Lubbock. By the way, no rest for the wicked. Texas Tech visiting Champaign, Illinois tonight for a top 15 matchup in basketball. 7:30 tonight Central. Texas Tech, the 11th ranked Red Raiders, taking on the 14th ranked Illinois basketball team. So that should be a good one. With James Wesley, I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Radio. Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, and presented by Modelo. Big 12 today. Sit down and be humble, James. James Westling, Ari Temkin. Come on, be humble.
Humble's my middle name.
Sure it's not humble?
It's not
James
Humble,
Westling
Texas.
on social at James Westling. I am Ari
RH.
Temkin. I am on social at Ari Sports. Our games of the week for week 12 upcoming in the Big 12 would be Oklahoma State, Kansas State, 11 a.m. Central, 12 Eastern. And then we will also have a night game for you in our 2 games of the week. Utah, Baylor, 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern time. So Oklahoma State, Kansas State at 11 following Big 12 game day with TJ Reeves. And then Utah, Baylor, 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern. Kind of an undersold week, if you will. Like just doesn't seem like a lot of great premier matchups, but this is where college football in November, this is where crazy things can happen. So you look at the schedule, you see UCF, Texas Tech. You need Texas Tech to take care of business at home. TCU, BYU, same thing with BYU at home with a hungry TCU team coming in. Arizona, Cincinnati is kind of an underrated game with Cincinnati sitting at just 1 Big 12 loss. If Arizona can go to Cincinnati and get a win there, they'd knock them out of the picture and make the race a little bit tighter. So some sort of maybe underappreciated games this weekend, but not the premier BYU Texas Tech that we saw last weekend. And with BYU playing Cincinnati next weekend, that's a potential big one. So, yeah, week 12 could be really interesting from a fireworks perspective because nothing stands out off the top on that.
Yeah, I'm so excited about week 13 that I just added to the rundown that we would be previewing the BYU Cincinnati game. And then it hit me that that's not this
even,
weekend,
yeah.
That's next weekend. So this is kind of a setup week, which setup weeks in the Big 12 historically have just been absolutely bananas. So can Baylor upset Utah? That's a major game that I look at with potential there. Could TCU go on the road and upset BYU? Like, there are some scary matchups if you're those teams in the upper echelon of the league. Cincinnati at home against Arizona. I think the Bearcats are very much going to have to come to play in that one. And then, Texas Tech, we assumed that they'd flex their muscles against UCF, but UCF had a defensive back that had 3 interceptions, and their win over Houston, or in their loss to Houston this past Saturday, they're a team that, even though they're 1-5 in league, they compete their tails off. So a lot of really potential for craziness this Saturday.
All right, looking back to last Saturday, the Big 12 announced its weekly award winners. The Offensive Player of the Week was Quincy Craig, the running back from Arizona, who had the game-winning touchdown against my Jayhawks, and also Cameron Dickey, the running back for Texas Tech. They shared the Offensive Player of the Week awards.
Yeah, Cameron Dickey has been a baller. I mean, 121 yards, had that touchdown against BYU in that 29-7 win. He's now the Big 12's leading rusher with almost 900 yards on the season. He's got a couple of 100-yard games, 11 touchdowns. He's pacing to become only the 9th 1,000-yard rusher in Texas Tech history, and he runs angry. Like, he's a bigger back. He's a tone setter. And then Quincy Craig, I mean, he gets this award because he had the game winner against Kansas, that 24-yard touchdown run. But he caught a touchdown in this game, and that was the play that tied Noah Fafita for the Arizona career passing touchdown record. He's got 67 career touchdowns, and they've had some really good quarterbacks over the years, and Nick Foles. You think about Khalil Tate, and now Noah Fafita in the driver's seat for that record.
Wow. Defensive Player of the Week, you just referenced this a moment ago, but the defensive back from UCF, Philip Dunham, is one of the defensive players of the week. And it was a big week for him if he's also with Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker for Texas Tech, who had 14 tackles, 9 solo, a tackle for loss, an interception. He also had a fumble recovery and did the Heisman pose as well to try to solidify his name, at least in the conversation. But Philip Dunham, with how many interceptions did he have?
He had 3.
Yeah, 3. Not 60, but 3. And then 2 touchdowns?
He had 3 interceptions. He had 4 tackles.
Was there a pick 6 in this game? I'm trying to remember. There were so many interceptions.
Yeah, there were a lot of interceptions. They had 4. UCF had 4 collectively.
And dude had 3 of the 4.
And he had 3 of the 4. He became – this is one week where I'm really excited that we have co-defensive players of the week, because how do you not have one of these two guys? Philip Dunham with those 3 picks became only the second player in all of college football this season to have a 3-pick game. And it came against a quarterback who had only thrown 4 interceptions all season. So that magnifies just what he did. And then Jacob Rodriguez, who leads the nation in forced fumbles. First FBS football player since 2013. We're talking almost over a decade in the last 12 years to have more than 5 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, and 2 fumble recoveries in the same season. I mean, nobody's done it since Manti Te'o, who was runner-up that year in the Heisman race. This is a Heisman-caliber performance we're getting from Jacob Rodriguez this season.
Are you saying that Jacob Rodriguez is active duty military wife? Never mind, I'm not going to.
She's a real person.
Yeah, we've seen
exists.
her. She exists. We've seen her.
Did you watch the Manti Te'o documentary on Netflix?
Yeah.
That was part of the whole banger doc. Banger doc.
Yeah, I watched it and thought, that's pretty good, but then also I thought, I'll never get those 2 hours back.
You don't care that much?
Yeah, correct. I watched it, was like, oh, that's pretty good, but also, like, what a waste of time. Special teams player of the week, Aiden Flora, who had the punt return for touchdown in Iowa State's win, and that punt return for touchdown really helped to get Iowa State off and rolling in their win over TCU. TCU was in complete control until Flora took a punt to the house. I believe that's his second of the season. And then also Stone Harrington for Texas Tech, who's got stones of steel, 5 for 5 from field goal range, including a 47-yarder. But if you're going to be bad in the red zone at scoring touchdowns, you might as well have a good kicker, and Stone Harrington is a good kicker for Texas Tech.
Harrington leaves no stone unturned
Nice.
in the kicking game.
Way to outdo me.
No, your pun was better.
Thank
I
you.
like it. Stones of steel. He's a baller. 5 for 5 field goals, along of 47. Made kicks from 27, 29, 34, 39, and 47. One of just 4 kickers in the entire country to bang through 5 or more field goals in a game back-to-back.
Wow.
Awards for him. He was last week's Co-Special Teams Player of the Week. That Aiden Flora punt return touchdown for Iowa State, 79 yards. He has such long strides that it doesn't look like he's moving as fast as he is, but he's a really underrated speed guy for Iowa State, and he was weaving his way through traffic. And to your point, that was a huge play in that game.
Freshman of the week. This one off the board here. It's been an award that's gone to quarterbacks throughout the course of the year, and most predominantly to Bear Bachmeier for BYU. I believe he's won it the majority of the weeks. But this week it goes to Dior Hubbard, the running back for West Virginia, who had 16 for 70, also had 6 receptions for 94 yards. Maybe could have gone to Scotty Fox, who got it last week. Julian Lewis, who in a losing effort. So many a freshman quarterback this could have gone to, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first week of the season. It's not going to a freshman quarterback. Instead, it's going to a freshman running back.
And this is a great story in Morgantown. You noted those 158 all-purpose yards that he had, second straight Mountaineer to win Freshman of the Week, but also he's a guy that could have transferred out after the coaching change. This is his second year in the program. He redshirted last year and played in 2 games, and he's just a guy that works his tail off in practice. Like, he wasn't a super highly touted recruit. He was a 3-star rating. ESPN had him listed as the number 69 running back in the country out of high school, the number 33rd overall player in the state of Ohio, which tells you just how deep the talent pool is in that state. He's a major in criminology, by the way.
You said what number was he running back?
69.
Got it.
Number 69 running back.
Got it.
Number 33 overall prospect in the state of Ohio. But he was a guy that just put in the work. He was a track star in high school. That's what initially kind of got the attention of the coaching staff. And here he is, Big 12 Freshman of the Week.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. We're going through our Big 12 Weekly Award winners. The offensive line of the week this week goes to Iowa State. The defensive line of this week goes to Texas Tech. No surprises there.
No, I would agree with that. You know, the Iowa State offensive line only allowed 1 sack. Rocco Becht was 9 for 24 passing, but only got sacked 1 time in the game, and they paved the way for 161 yards rushing. Carson Hansen ran for $108 behind that group. They also opened up a massive lane for Rocco Becht's 25-yard scramble, which was on that go-ahead score drive for Iowa State in the fourth quarter. that very much put them in the driver's seat in that game. So Iowa State, love the helmets, by the way. The Cyclones script font, the throwback look.
And the defensive line of the week was Texas Tech.
Who?
The Red Raiders. No surprises there. As much as we talked about, you could rename the Freshman of the Week award the Bear Bachmeier Award. You could probably rename the Defensive Line of the Week award the Texas Tech Defensive Line of the Week award.
Yeah. Textbook team defense. The numbers are there.
Textbook?
Ooh, I see what you did there. Like it.
Do you? Or are you just being nice?
No, I do.
Okay, good.
Textbook. Only the third team all year to hold a top 10 team under 10 points. And remember, those other performances came early in the season against teams that were in the top 10 at the time that are now nowhere to be found in the AP Top 25. So it was an incredible performance by their defense. And it's not only Jacob Rodriguez and David Bailey. It's so well-balanced and well-rounded, and there's probably 8 guys starting on that defense that'll be playing in the NFL.
Well,
maybe 11.
And Skylar Gill-Howard, I mean, he started off on a tear for Texas Tech, and you're thinking, man, if they lose him, what's the defensive line going to look like? And so far, so good. And I think, by the way, I think the defensive line was being selfish this week for Texas Tech. L.J. Martin had been leading the Big 12 in rushing, and they wanted their guy, Cameron Dickey, to be leading the league in rushing, and that's exactly what they did. Holding L.J. Martin to 67 yards, Dickey went off, and now he, as you mentioned, is the leading rusher in the Big 12.
And there's a great story about Skylar Gill-Howard, and even though he's out for the year, he's very much a part of this football team. He is a vocal leader for Texas Tech's defense from the sidelines, and he's essentially, you know, he knew the schematics and what Sheil Wood, the defensive coordinator, is trying to do with that Tech defense. But not being on the field, he's been able to absorb that information at an even higher level. And so now he's become almost a coach on the sidelines. He's still a huge part of the program. And again, he's one of these transfers that you don't know how it's going to pan out. And Texas Tech, did they overpay the market value for him? And he gets in there and he's doing things, even when he's unable to play, that just adds another layer to this team and this defense.
This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Temkin. Plenty more to get to on today's show, including our Big 12 tiers and what it might say about the future of Big 12 football programs and their coaches. Plus, Scott Frost throws some shade at Texas Tech. That's all coming up. Along with James Westling, I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Hey, along with James Westling, I am Ari Temkin. Great to have you with us today and every day in your home for the Big 12 Conference. Tune in Big 12 Studios. To see where you can watch us, search big12studios.com, and there you'll find all the platforms for which you could stream us live, whether it be Tupi, Roku, YouTube, Amazon Prime Video, and plenty of other platforms where you can watch us live now and not just listen to us on TuneIn. And, of course, if you ever miss any of our great segments or guests, Shahan Jayaraja from CBS Sports, well, they're always available on the TuneIn app on demand or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Big 12 Radio on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you'll find us there. Also, on this Veterans Day, I want to shout out a partner of the Big 12 and a friend of ours, VetTix. VetTix is an incredible organization, a nonprofit that gives free tickets to veterans, active duty service members, and their families, helping them experience concerts, games, and events they might otherwise miss. They turn donated or unused tickets into meaningful moments, strengthening family connections and easing the transition back into civilian life. Just one way that another service to help veterans on this Veterans Day. So go check out VetTix and support what they do. Search VetTix, VETTIX.org, VETTIX. Did I say TIX? I think I said TIX.
Tix?
Yeah, VetTix, VETTIX.org. VETTIX.org for VetTix.
And those are high-level events, too. I remember they were at the Big 12 Championship game last year. Like, these aren't your mom-and-pop type events. These are big-time concerts, big-time sporting events. They're a tremendous organization, and we are big fans of what they do.
All right, Scott Frost was asked about NIL and Joey McGuire, Texas Tech specifically. Here, take a listen to what Scott Frost said about Texas Tech.
I hate where the game is right now. It's great that players are being compensated, but there was absolutely no guardrails around it, and that's a shame for a guy that spent most of my life in college football and loves it and loves the purity of it. It's not where it should be right now. That being said, the teams that are doing things to get ahead, it's the old saying, you don't hate the player, hate the game. I don't blame them, and they did a good job using their resources to get a good enough team to be 8-1 right now, and I'm sure everybody wishes they could do that. Not everybody has the ability to do that, and I think we put together a really strong team with what we had, and we're going to keep having more because of the work that Terry and other people are doing. And in the meantime, we're just going to keep battling and having fun, and I respect them for what they've done. Wish we could just do it. We can't yet. We're getting there. But in the meantime, we get to go play football and try to compete against a good team, and that's fun.
All right, so first thing he said is, I hate where the game is right now, which is a really interesting thing to say about, the sport of which you coach. This is not a surprise, I think, given similar comments from Scott Frost, whether it be things he said like this publicly over the last year or since being hired, and then, of course, what he said to us at Big 12 Media Days. Like, this fits. And let me just start by saying that I'm so done with the term guardrails. I get that there are faults and issues right now with the current state of affairs. But, nobody brings up guardrails when it comes to coaches' buyouts. Do we need guardrails on coaches' buyouts? Because there's more money being spent right now on coaches not coaching than there is on the entire roster of multiple schools in multiple conferences. So, guardrails to me, it's like this catch-all, and it's a buzzword like synergy in the corporate world that is great to hear, and people love to hear it and say it because it sounds like it means a lot, but it's like a completely meaningless word to me. There are guardrails right now, whether you choose to accept where those lines are or not is at your disposal. There's always going to be ways to skirt around some of those lines, but it's just crazy to me the coach can sit there and say this with a straight face while also not recognizing the amount of money that's tied into coaches not coaching. Do we need guardrails around that too? Or is it just the players because they're suddenly getting paid and you don't like the way in which they're getting paid.
And I'm trying to find out what so Scott Frost got a $15 million buyout when he got let go from Nebraska. And, that's not chump change. And
no, that's if you're spending 20-some million in your athletic department, that's basically the amount of money you're spending across your entire athletic department to fund it.
Right. And the programs and the teams that are, flush with cash are not the ones complaining. And I don't think that that's a coincidence. And I understand that Scott Frost is trying to, frame this as a culture versus capital type matchup. But Texas Tech, as we've noted many times throughout the entire season, is not just capital. Their culture, too. Now, where Scott Frost is hoping that UCF can get to is that type of capital eventually. And their NIL is getting better. But I don't like coaches that say I'm in favor of players getting paid, but
right,
and then you
but
throw
every coach says that
three-letter word, but, and when you use that terminology or that word there, it essentially to me negates everything that you just said about being in favor of players getting paid.
That's a great point, and just to expand on that, it's pretty much at this point what every coach says. You will not hear a coach that will say anything other than it's a good thing that players are getting paid now. Whereas 5 years ago, that was not a trope you would have heard. No, coach, players should not be getting paid. No, that's a bad thing. Absolutely not. And now it's a common trope where it's I'm glad players getting paid, but we need some guardrails on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, do we need some guardrails on coaches, on coach buyouts? What other guardrails do we need?
Right.
That is completely and utterly out of control. Because what Scott Frost isn't saying there is it's out of control. And again, I'm not trying to say that the system is perfect. I mean, you do have guys that are on rosters that are, basically pitting programs against each other in a negotiation or a battle of negotiation. You have that. There's no question about that. I mean, if Dylan Edwards ends up transferring to Miami, it'll be the same story, the second verse from a story we've already heard. But you can't tell me this is the only thing within the enterprise that needs quote unquote guardrails. And I'll just point directly at coaches and say, we need guardrails on the amount of buyouts that coaches are getting because it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And again, he says, I'm not calling out anybody, but, and then he goes on to do that very thing.
To call out somebody.
So I understand that UCF is 1-5 in Big 12 play, and they have much higher expectations for their program. But I would lean into more the fact that it's year one. He had to overhaul most of his entire roster. They've still done a lot of really good things, and frame it that way. The playing field has shifted in college football. There is a larger discrepancy, I think, than ever before between the teams at the top and the teams at the bottom. Now, you can call it parity in college football, not just the Big 12, but nationally in terms of the top 10 or 15 teams that are going to be in the conversation when the college football playoff rankings come out tonight. But top to bottom, the gap is as big as it's ever been. So you have to find new leverage if you're Scott Frost. And you can't rely on the formulas of old to have the same success that you had the first time at UCF. And you can't just throw it all into money wins and have that overarching narrative, because when you don't win, and if you don't win, it doesn't sound like you're taking any responsibility, or there's a lack of accountability when you frame it that way. And that's the part that bothers me to a certain degree.
You mean when teams don't win, it's not because they don't have the money or the resources? Even though that's a very convenient and easy excuse?
It's only that. Just like at LSU and Penn State, they didn't have the money or the resources. Same with Florida State.
Yeah, it's too easy of an excuse. There's two things right now that are far too easy for coaches to say without much recourse, which is guardrails. Just say guardrails. At this point, you don't even need to say anything else. Guardrails! We need guardrails.
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 The other one is we're 1-5 in Big 12 play, but we don't have the money. We don't have the resources. If you're, and maybe this is a product of Terry Mohajir more than anything, but are you to Scott Frost? Enough of this. This is the game. These are the rules. Play it. Because the continual complaining about the state of affairs does nothing but hamper the growth of your program. Like, I would say right now, UCF is far better than I thought they would be this year.
Same. Totally agree.
But I also believe that moving forward, the expectations are going to be higher based on what they did this year. And I'm not sure that they can get to that level because of this mentality that continues to perpetuate within UCF's walls. You just can't have this mentality. Like, Kenny Dillingham, who we're going to have on the show tomorrow, has the exact opposite approach here. Mm-hmm. And, like, that's because he's selling that vision nationally to recruits, to transfers, to his team. Scott Frost is the exact opposite here. He's doing the exact opposite thing. He's telling recruits, transfer portal, like, we don't have that much money to spend, and we're not happy to spend it. Right? What else are you saying by saying this stuff publicly?
And how does UCF get there, and what is their ceiling? When you look at the Bounce House as a really unique, high-level college football environment, where do they rank in terms of NIL compared to the rest of the conference? With this new cap, what are the creative ways that they can find
to get around it? To
retain talent in their own backyard, too. That's another huge thing. I mean, in Orlando, there is so much speed and athleticism that they were able to bring into the program during their run in the American and build a team that went undefeated in Scott Frost's first tenure. Is their ceiling an 8-4 type program in this new era in this unlevel playing field? That's what I think Scott Frost with his comments is kind of saying without saying. But it is, if you're UCF, disappointing to hear, like, why not us? Like, why can't we be a Texas Tech or a BYU or an Arizona State in years to come? And Arizona State didn't really have the resources until now because of the success on the field. Like,
have you ever heard Kenny Dillingham say anything negative about NIL or talk about guardrails or no? I mean, to your point, like, Arizona State's in a similar boat to that of UCF in terms of resources. Look, they're starting from a better spot as UCF is now only getting to the full amount of payout relative to the rest of the Big 12. The Arizona State's been there. But still, like, from a resources standpoint, Arizona State's not at the top half of the Big 12.
Right.
And only if they are, they're only now because of the winning they did when they didn't have those types of resources. All right, Big 12 tiers. One of the things we like to do is sort of evaluate and reevaluate how this conference looks. I'm curious if you agree with me. There's 3 teams in Tier 1 of the Big 12 right now, and maybe just 2, or maybe just 1. I don't know. What do you think? Be Texas Tech, are they in a tier of their own? And Tier 2 would be then Utah and BYU?
I've got Texas Tech in a tier of their own, yes. I mean, the way they've dominated
both Utah and BYU.
Who you could make a case are the 2 best teams in the conference outside of them. I think Cincinnati fans would say, hey, what about us? And I would point to the 45-14 loss to Utah that puts Utah in a different category because of the head-to-head. But, I mean, Texas Tech beat BYU, beat Utah by a combined score of, 53-14 or 53-17? That is total domination. They are in a class of their own. And their only loss was with their backup quarterback, who looked good in the second half against Utah, but just wasn't quite ready as a redshirt freshman for that moment. And then in the next tier, I'd put BYU and Utah alone, the 2 of them. They had a very competitive game, went right down to the wire. I think both are, BYU controls their own destiny, but Utah could kind of backdoor their way into the conference championship game. The next tier is where I have Cincinnati.
Yeah, and Tier 3 is the interesting one. So
yes, it is
Cincinnati alone in Tier 3 for you?
Man, that's a good question. I would say right now as we sit here today, yes, because of the fact that they only have that 1 loss in Big 12 play. They have some impressive wins, but nothing that is jaw-dropping. Their best win is probably at home against Iowa State and the way they won that game and what Iowa State was back then, and then their road win at Kansas. Since then, they've had some kind of day at the office type wins where they've beaten an Oklahoma State, they've beaten a UCF, and they haven't showed their entire bag, if you will, but they've still gotten the wins. And then in the next category is where I've got that massive logjam of teams. But Cincinnati, we will find out a lot about them, I think, this weekend against Arizona, but even more so next weekend when they play BYU. That is the game that I cannot wait for to see if Cincinnati's is legit as I think they could potentially be.
All right, so you have Texas Tech at Tier 1, and I agree with you there. Tier 2 be Utah, BYU. Tier 3, Cincinnati. Tier 4, Houston.
Tier 4's Houston, Arizona State, Arizona, TCU, Baylor. It's a massive gathering of teams.
Wow. So the rest is Tier 5?
Tier 5, I'd probably put Kansas State, Iowa State, and Kansas in that group. And then the bottom tier, West Virginia, UCF, Colorado, and Oklahoma State.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I might include K-State in that Tier 4, but I think you're right. You're splitting hairs at that point. Let me ask you this. So one coach has been fired already, Mike Gundy. I believe Dave Aranda is also coaching up the rest of the season before he's gone. What about Colorado?
Colorado will not fire Deion Sanders.
Agreed. And quite frankly, nor should they.
And I don't think Deion Sanders walks away unless it's health-related. Like unforeseen circumstances, I think, is the only thing standing between the guarantee that he'll be back next season. And Taylor McCarg yesterday on our Monday morning quarterback segment said that he didn't think Deion would be back. And that, to me, my first thought was, well, maybe he just can't dedicate as much time and energy to the position as he initially expected because of everything that he's gone through and what he's gone through mid-season with injuries to your head coach, if you will, with the health scares that he's had. So that's the only thing that gives me pause about him. But with the season that Colorado's having, I don't think Colorado needs to worry about somebody poaching him for their job next year, even with the domino effect.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, I think this was predictable, and therefore, like a lot of times if you've got surprisingly bad seasons, it's it's a reason to let go of a coach, but in this case, I think it was perfectly predictable. So therefore, do you think there's any other coaches on the hot seat other than the one coach that's been fired and the other coach that I believe will be fired?
No, I don't believe this season we have that many coaches on the hot seat. I mean, TCU is interesting to me because they should have beaten Iowa State. And with them at 6-3, there's a lot of different ways that their season can still go. The bottom could fall out and they could fall to 7-5 or 6-6, and then I do think that Sonny Dykes is maybe on the hot seat. I mean, they were in the national championship just 3 seasons ago, and there's been quite a bit of regression. Outside of that, I think Chris Kleiman at Kansas State has done enough that his seat doesn't get warm until another season like this next year, maybe. Same thing for Lance Leipold in Kansas. With what he's done building the program. But if Kansas has another year like this next year, maybe his seat is a little bit warm. But some of these coaches that I thought maybe other programs would try and poach from, I don't think happens after the season that Kansas State's had in Kansas and Iowa State and TCU. And even at Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham has been very adamant that he is not going anywhere. And this is his dream job. BetOnline had him as the odds-on favorite to be the next head coach at Auburn. He's out there pounding the ground and the pavement on the recruiting trail, telling recruits that he's all in on Arizona State for the long term. Sam Leavitt should be back next year because I think with his injury, he's not going to be in the NFL draft for 2026. So there's still a lot to like about them. So it could potentially be kind of a quiet offseason on the coaching front.
Yeah, well said. And I agree with you. I mean, I think if you said over under Big 12 coaches fired 1.5, I would take, or 2.5, I would take the under. Gundy's been fired. I think Aranda will be on his way out. I think Dykes probably begins next year on the hot seat. How long does the success year one last for what I would say is a fairly disappointing season this year? And the Iowa State game is probably front and center of that. Had they won that, they're 7-2 and very much in the thick of this race.
Yes. Yeah, that was a massive loss, and the way they lost the game. I mean, they're up 17-6 with 8 minutes to go in the game, and they let it slip away. And you have one of the best pure passers in the country. And their next 3 games are at BYU this weekend, and then at Houston next weekend, and then Cincinnati. Those are their next 3 games. I mean, if they end the season polar opposite of what they did last year, which they very desperately needed after they got blown out by Houston at home. They went on this huge hot streak, but they didn't beat any ranked teams, and they finished 9-4, and they play Lafayette in the bowl game. This could be the exact opposite. Like, if you end the season losing 3 out of 4 or all 4, I think maybe there's a coaching change after the year.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Radio. We check in on all the other sports going on in the collegiate ranks, including women's soccer. Give some updates there on the NCAA tournament field, which is now set. Plus, get you caught up on what's going on the hardwood. King McClure joins us coming up in a little bit. This is Big 12 Radio. Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, and presented by Modelo. It's Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today. It's Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, exclusively on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. We are presented by the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo. And if you are tuning in each and every day here on Big 12 Radio, well, then you, my friends, are full-time fans. So cheers to you, and grab yourself an ice cold and refreshing Modelo, which is the perfect complement to the college football season. With James Westling on social at James Westling. I am Ari Temkin on social at Ari Sports, ARI Sports. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. And over the weekend, BYU beat Kansas in the Big 12 Women's Soccer Championship. 8 bids were earned to the NCAA Women's Soccer Championship, matching the conference record for the most bids of all time, which is just another example of the Big 12 being a different league. Baylor, BYU, UCF, Colorado, Kansas, TCU, Texas Tech, and West Virginia, all dancing, receiving bids to the NCAA tournament. So congratulations to those qualifiers, and hopefully we're talking about a potential national championship out of the Big 12.
Yeah, and I look at the run that BYU had. I mean, it's been incredible. And the program has been really consistent over the years. NCAA tournament appearances and 20-plus in the last 30 seasons. They were in the West Coast Conference and were the national runner-ups back in 2021. So BYU has the pedigree, but they were an 8 seed entering the Big 12 tournament, and they took down top seed TCU in penalty kicks in the quarters. Then in the semifinals, they shut out Baylor 4-0, and then they beat Kansas 1-0 to claim their first ever Big 12 tournament championship. I mean, that's coming out of nowhere. When you've got an 8 seed that wins the whole thing, they get a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. So from 8 seed to champion, it was an incredible, remarkable run from a program that had the pedigree historically, but in their eyes was kind of having a little bit of a down season, and that's a big help to the NCAA and to the Big 12 in terms of the NCAA tournament picture and getting those 8 teams in.
Yeah, so the tournament starts on Friday with first-round games played Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then second and third-round matches will be held November 20th and 23rd. The quarterfinals November 28th and 29th. So basically like the NCAA tournament in basketball, similarly 64 teams. It'll start this weekend and continue in subsequent weekends. So we will see. This is the 44th annual NCAA Women's College Cup, which is the Final Four played December 5th and 8th at CPK Stadium in Kansas City.
And that upset win over TCU probably knocked them off of that one line. They had potential to be a 1 seed. They're a 2 seed. You've got Colorado as a 3, Kansas as a 3, Baylor and BYU, both top 5 seeds. So that's really good for the league, and it matches that 2003 year. You noted it's the most Big 12 bids ever. Well, it's by far the most ever in this new current format. And then you've got power players that have been there. Like 6 of the 8 from the Big 12 were in last year's NCAA tournament field. So the league is really, really deep and has kind of introduced itself as maybe the deepest conference in America when it comes to the women's soccer side. And remember, the NCAA tournament on the men's basketball side is going to look a lot different this year. Like, I keep forgetting that it's going to be expanded to 76 for this upcoming tournament. So when we talk about, teams that might potentially be on the bubble, that field goes from 68 to 76. Last year, that would have meant one more bid for the Big 12 because West Virginia was the first or second team out. So West Virginia would have been in the field in this new format, and they keep saying, the NCAA and Charlie Baker, that it's supposed to help all the mid-majors that maybe don't win their conference championships. Even if that's the case, you cannot tell me that that's the 8 teams that are going to be in, at least half of them are going to be from power conferences. So that would have meant West Virginia would have been in the field.
Yeah, all right. We've got Big 12 Hoops Talk coming up on the men's and women's side. King McClure joins us in about 8 minutes from now, so you're not going to miss our Big 12 basketball insider King McClure react to what we saw this weekend. Last night, Iowa State had a nice win. Tonight, it's a top 15 matchup between Texas Tech and Illinois. So some really good basketball being played, and we'll be discussing both the men's and women's side coming up on the show, and including King McClure in about 8 minutes. Bill Connolly has a piece out. College football Week 11 recap, fatal flaws for every playoff contender. And so the tier 1 is maybe what stands out most to me. Indiana, Ohio State, and A&M are all in tier 1. We just tiered the Big 12 and had Texas Tech all by itself in tier 1. Connolly has Texas Tech in tier 2 along with Ole Miss, Oregon, Georgia, and Alabama. This is surprising to me. I certainly think that they belong in tier 1. However, those are also 3 undefeated teams, so I get it, and Texas Tech is not. BYU finds itself in tier 3, which is actually not as bad as I thought it might be. And then Utah finds itself in tier 4 along with Michigan, USC, Vanderbilt, Texas, and Oklahoma. Any issues with that?
No, not necessarily. I think that if Texas Tech is undefeated, they're very much in tier 1 with Indiana and Ohio State and Texas A&M. And they didn't have Baron Morton in that loss. But with that said, nobody cares. It's still an L. And so I think for that reason alone, it's justified where they are. And he has them as the top team in tier 2 with a 90% chance of making the college football playoff, which is way higher than anybody in the Big 12 sat at this time last year. Now, BYU, the analytics and the metrics and even the Athletic, their college football playoff simulation, only gives BYU about a 19% chance of making the college football playoff because all the analytics and metrics say that they're flirting with disaster, that they've been sneaking by teams. They've had to come from behind in 4 out of their last 5 wins, and then they suffered a 22-point loss against a really good Texas Tech team. So BYU, who still has tough games left on their schedule, including a road game at Cincinnati, if they drop that one, I think they're out of the discussion. And Utah very much enters the chat because they're the team. Like BYU and Utah are polar opposites of each other. Utah has maybe more marquee wins. The way that they've beaten people has been very different from how BYU has, but they have the loss head-to-head. They have one more loss on their resume, but all the metrics really like Utah and really think BYU's a little bit overrated. So again, that's just a fascinating dynamic in terms of where you put those teams.
Right, and does BYU's win over Utah keep Utah out because of that head-to-head, despite many of the other metrics looking better? Let's stick on BYU. Connolly writes, despite Saturday's loss at Tech, BYU still has plenty to offer. The Cougars defend the pass well and both create and avoid negative plays, but against 2 SP Plus top 30 defenses, they've scored just 31 combined points and average 4.8 yards per play. Quarterback Bear Bachmeier has been excellent for a freshman, but he doesn't get the help he needs against the best defenses. Yeah, I mean, you could argue Kalani Sitake is the coach of the year of the Big 12 this year because of the way that they've managed this team. This team shouldn't be where it is right now because they have a true freshman quarterback who spent spring at Palo Alto, California. So the fact that the expectations have been so raised speak to how good the coaching has been and how good Bear Bachmeier's been. But there's a ceiling here. How far can you go with a true freshman quarterback? And I think that's the flaw there. That is absolutely a fatal flaw for BYU. Probably more so than Utah's and Texas Tech's.
Definitely. Absolutely. I mean, they lack that juice offensively, and they beat teams by 4 yards in a cloud of dust, and then they hit explosives with Chase Roberts and Parker Kingston. And against teams that can get pressure on Bachmeier like Texas Tech did with a 4-man rush, it totally changes everything for BYU. So I understand the concerns, but defensively, I still think that they're so dominant, and the way they force opponents into turnovers and they force opposing quarterbacks into mistakes, teams that maybe aren't as good as the Texas Tech defensively, which there are plenty of those type of programs out there, if they can avoid negative plays offensively, I think their defense can keep them in games, even against a hypothetical matchup against Oregon or against a Texas or Notre Dame. I think Texas Tech is so good defensively that, you know, what they did to BYU, I don't think a lot of other teams can replicate that, which leads me to believe that BYU is a team that can hang with one of these power programs if they do get in. But first they have to get in. I mean, this time last year, they were maybe more of a lock than they are this time this year.
The fatal flaw for Texas Tech, by the way, is Connolly writes, on one hand, Tech has played a pretty weak schedule featuring only 2 SP Plus top 40 opponents. On the other hand, after Saturday's win over BYU, the Red Raiders have beaten those 2 opponents by a combined 63-17. The dream season rolls on in Lubbock, but the school of Patrick Mahomes and the Air Raid's legacy is still merely good, throwing the ball not great. Baron Morton is A, injury prone, and B, only 45th in total QBR, and while the Red Raiders has scored 34 or more 8 times, they're 53rd in 3-and-out rate and are mortal against good defenses, which... hard to disagree. We talked yesterday about their inability to finish red zone drives and touchdowns. I think that's related to the 3-and-out thing. I think it's related to Baron Morton. Plainly put, Morton has to be better for this team to actually win a national championship. It might be unlikely for them to win a national championship, but any chance they have, Morton needs to be better. He doesn't need to be elite. He just needs to be better than what he's been.
Agreed. And I think the offensive line has to have improvement as well. I mean, he is still getting hit a lot. And this is where that football factory, football resort complex that they have in Lubbock really comes into play, because Baron Morton needs to be healthy for a postseason run, and he's injury prone. And I would be having him in that facility every day, which I'm sure they are, trying to get him back as close to full strength as possible. So that resort that they have in Lubbock really comes into play to try and get him healthier. But he's only 45th in total QBR, as you noted, and they're 53rd in the country in 3-and-out rate. That's just too low to win a national championship.
That's James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. King McClure, our basketball insider, joins us next. This is Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and streaming on Big 12 Studios. 12 Radio. It's Big 12 today. Along with James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. We are presented by the Full-Time Fan by Modelo. We know King McClure is a full-time fan. Get King some Modelo. He joins us as our Big 12 basketball insider. What's going on, King? How are you?
What up, fellas? How we doing?
Doing great. Thank you. Are we getting King and the coach back, or what? I want to promote that. So are we going to get that back, or?
You know, I'm hoping so. I think we're in the talks of it. Fran is definitely wanting to do it, and I love working with Fran. So let's hope that we get King and the coach back, because I love doing it.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Hopefully we'll get another season of King and the Coach on TuneIn, which is exactly what we had last year, and it was fantastic. All right, King, big win for your Baylor Bears over the weekend on late Sunday night against a Washington team that I think a lot of people expect to be a tournament team. I guess just let's start there, because that maybe is a surprise for them to be 2-0 to start the season. What have you noticed about Baylor?
Yeah, I feel like they're doing a really good job of. This is probably the most team-centric team from Baylor that we've seen in the past few years. I mean, I feel like last year you had B.J. Edgecombe, you had Rob Wright, and those guys were the primary focus. This season, when you have Tunde, you have Cam Carr, you have Obi, Caden Powell, Ratai, Dan Skillings, you have so many guys on any given night can have a big game, which is what I think makes Baylor so dangerous. You talk about their length on the defensive side and the versatility in which they play with, but you also talk about how you have multiple guys who can go for 20 in any given night. I think Cam Carr is special. I think you'll see him in the NBA. I think Tunde Yesufu is a guy who no doubt you'll see him in the draft next year. But Caden Powell, what he was able to do coming off the bench and really just holding it down at that 5 spot, a spot in which Baylor has really needed some answers. That's my biggest question mark for this team. We talked about it when we were at Media Day for Baylor. If you don't necessarily have a true point guard and you don't have a solid big, then what are you going to do? Like 2 through 4, you're phenomenal. But that one spot is missing, and I think that at times they can figure it out. Isaac Williams maybe might be an answer. But that 5 spot, I think Caden Powell is a guy who can fit into that 5 spot, and you'll see actually excel throughout the whole season.
King, Iowa State got a 96-80 win over Mississippi State last night at the Pentagon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Really nice win for the Cyclones. The first half was tight. There were 8 lead changes early in the game, and then Iowa State closed the first half on a 15-3 run and never looked back. They forced 26 turnovers in that game. And, I guess with Iowa State, there's a lot more back from last year than I think people maybe realize. What impressed you most about them?
Yeah, the defense. When you talk about Mississippi State, Hubbard is one of the best guards in the country, or in the SEC for sure. So to be able to force 26 turnovers in a game, I think that right there was actually super impressive. Because we talk about this new day and age of college basketball, and we talk about culture, and when we talk about Kelvin Sampson and his culture, we talk about Shaka Smart and his culture. TJ Altenberger is just up there with those guys. When he brings back Lipsey, he brings back Jefferson. Those guys are culture warriors, and when you have those guys who are able to lead on not only on the offensive side, but on the defensive side, I think this is what you expect. There's an expectation every single year now that Iowa State is going to be the most physical team. When they step on the court, they're going to pressure you, they're going to speed you up, they're going to turn you over. That wasn't the expectation back when I was playing. That wasn't the same Iowa State team. No. So now when you look at what TJ Altenberger has done and what he has created, that is the expectation year in, year out, to be able to do things like what we saw last night. Dominate you on the defensive side, impose your will from a physical standpoint every single time they step on the floor. And TJ Altenberger has created that culture at Iowa State.
King, what, I guess, overall in the Big 12, what surprised you? What maybe positive and negative about the start of the year for the Big 12?
Oh, what surprised me? I think there's 2 things that up to this point has surprised me a little bit. I think number 1 is TCU. I think that loss to New Orleans is unacceptable. I expect the TCU to perform better than that, especially with Jaden Pierre, being able to be that leader. I expected TCU to be a little bit better than that. They have a big test against Michigan on Friday, which, I mean, they could redeem themselves. But that's number one for me, and number two is Kansas. I mean, I know, Ari. I know those are your
I
Jayhawks.
figured you were going to mention Kansas here, King. I figured.
Those are your Jayhawks, and I still think they're a good team. But where my concern is it really looks like Darren Peterson and friends.
Yeah.
And it really looks as if when Darren Peterson goes out the game, the guys that they got in the transfer portal, it almost look, and I hate to say this, but it almost seems as if they missed again this year. And I know I might be jumping the gun a little early, right? And I know they're on the road at North Carolina. But if Darren Peterson doesn't have a good game, I don't see anybody that can really step up. And right now, Floyd Badunga is your second leading scorer. And he's not a guy in which you can rely on to get buckets. He's not a post-up big. If you're relying on Badunga to go get buckets in the post, you're in trouble. I mean, guys like Marco Jackson have to step up. Jaden Dawson has to step up. Trey White has to be better. But if these guys do not elevate, then I don't think Kansas is going to have a good year because they're relying too heavily on Darren Peterson. And eventually, especially when it comes to the Big 12, Darren Peterson is a top 3 pick in the draft, no doubt about it. But when it comes to the Big 12 and teams start loading up and they start really doing the scouting report and really start scouting this young man, they're going to put 2 on the basketball and force him to get rid of it the whole game and say somebody else has to beat me. So Bill Self, who one of the greatest coaches that we've ever seen in this game, has to figure out a way in order to get those other guys going because you cannot have a repeat of what happened last year.
Yeah, and look, it is just 2 games, but I think to your point, like this was the thing we worried about Kansas heading into the year, and the second half of the North Carolina game put it front and center for everybody to see.
Yeah, and I think it just came so early.
Right.
So like I don't want to hit the panic button just yet, but I am a little concerned just because of the way that it looked. It just looked complete. They looked lost without Darren Peterson on the floor. Like almost like they are relying on Darren Peterson to be that dude. And if he's not in the game, they have no answer. So that's why I think Marco Jackson is the guy who I'm watching. And I think he's the one that has to take that leap here. I mean, we knew the expectation before he got injured. And after he's injured, and after he's coming back now from that injury, he's the guy in which I expect to have a big year and needs to have a big year if Kansas wants to have success this season.
King, what have your early season impressions been of the other freshmen in the league? Debonsa at BYU, Koa Pete went bananas in their opener against Florida. There's just the 2 freshmen starting at Houston. Who stands out to you?
I mean, I guess the obvious answers and the easy answers would be, your Koa Pete's when he had his first 30-point performance on one of the best front courts in America against Florida. And then you can talk about Debonsa and what he's done. Well, I think the 2 freshmen in which I want to highlight right now are the freshmen at Houston, and Kingston Flemings and Chris Senack. I mean, Chris Senack is a guy who we talk about all these freshmen. He doesn't get any love, and he definitely should because he will probably be a first-round draft pick this year. I mean, I didn't know that man could step out and shoot threes the way he can. I think that's a game changer for Kelvin Sampson. When is the last time we've seen a Kelvin Sampson 5-man be able to step out on the floor and step out and shoot threes behind the arc? I don't know. I don't remember the last time we've been able to see that. So just that alone takes their offense to another level because one of my questions that I asked was offensively, when who's going to be your bailout guy? Because you don't have L.J. Cryer or J'Wan Roberts. Well, if Chris Senack can provide you some points by spotting up behind the arc, his energy, his athleticism, he can get some offensive rebounds, some putbacks. Well, you have a little bit right there. I don't think he's a guy that you go to and throw it in 4 speed into the post, but I think he's a guy that in a pick and roll situation, Uzan can really make him look great because he's a lob threat. He can step out. He can pick and pop. I mean, he can just do so many other things. But Kingston Flemings, too. I mean, a 4-star guy from San Antonio, high-level player. He had 20 the other night. I mean, they'll have some good tests this week, some really, really tough tests. But Kingston Flemings is a guard that can really, really hoop. He's a high IQ, really smart basketball player. He's somebody that will be in this Houston system, hopefully, for about 2 to 3 years. And he will be the next star. I mean, I put him on that same trajectory as Jamal Shead. It doesn't look the exact same, but I think he'll be on that trajectory because his freshman year, he's starting. and he has to produce. So next year, when Uzan is gone, when Sharp is gone, it's the Kingston Fleming show. You have your point guard right there solidified in him, and he understands. Typically you have to sit out a few years when you go to Houston, and you have to learn. But Kingston Fleming gets thrown into the fire immediately. So he learns year one what Kelvin Sampson wants from him, and he's going to get better, and he's going to continue to grow. So I want to talk about those two freshmen, Kingston Fleming and Chris Senack, and I've been extremely impressed with their performance so far.
Yeah, and I'm curious, King, for your overall thoughts on, aside from Arizona's win against Florida, what's the best win of the Big 12 so far? Is it Baylor-Washington? Is it Oklahoma State over Texas A&M? What's the best win aside from that Arizona win?
Oof, best win. You know what? I'm gonna just be a little biased right here, and I'm going to say the most impressive win is that Oklahoma State win, and that's because I did that game and I got to watch it for front row. I got a front row seat to it, and it's the way that Oklahoma State did it. I think is what really impressed me. I mean, their guards are good. Their guards are so good. I mean, Curry, Jalen Curry, transferred from UMass. He's a high-level point guard, really fast, hard to really keep out the lane, can really facilitate, can shoot it, can score. Victorious Miller is going to be in for a breakout year this year. Mark my words. He is so skilled. He is so talented. And not only does he do it offensively, but defensively, he takes that challenge too. You have Chris Coleman, who transferred from UAB, just his energy, his athleticism, his versatility at that 4 spot at 6'9". He's extremely hard to deal with. You got Fallon, you got Vukovic, your two bigs that do very similar things, can really score on the block. And then you're missing Anthony Roy. And for those people who don't know who Anthony Roy is, let me just go ahead and educate you real quick. Anthony Roy, last year at Green Bay, led the country in scoring, averaged 26 points per game. This man, while averaging 26 points per game, he was shooting about like 51, 52 from the field and like 41 from the three-point line and about 81 from the free throw line. He was at 179.9, 180. When you have 180%, when your free throw percentage, your three-point percentage, and your field goal percentage equals to 180, and you add them all together, that's a really efficient score. So this man was at 179.9. So not only was he efficient, he averaged 26 and led the country in scoring while being that efficient. That is unheard of. So when this young man comes back, and we saw what he did against Auburn, how he had 27 against Auburn. And now, granted, I don't think Auburn is as good as advertised this year, but he had 27 against Auburn. So we saw what he did in that game. So when you look at Anthony Roy, he hasn't even played this year. And you saw what Oklahoma State did to A&M, to an A&M team who is not a slouch. They're good. I mean, Pop Isaacs, Rylan Griffin, they handled the pressure. They pushed the tempo. They dominated the game from start to finish. And you did that without Anthony Roy. Man, Steve Lutz's team is going to be the sleeper in the Big 12. I'm calling it right now. They will be the sleeper in the Big 12. Do not be surprised if they finish top 8 in the conference.
I could see it, man. I could see it. Roy's a fascinating story. He was at Langston University 2 years ago, an NAIA program that's about 20 miles southwest of Stillwater.
Yes.
Wow.
Then he transfers to Green Bay, plays for Doug Gottlieb. Now he's at Oklahoma State. I love it.
I love that. I literally was driving past Langston on my way from Stillwater back to the crib. And I actually didn't know that, James. Shout out to James, because I did not know that he was at Langston. Because, these dudes go to like 3, 4, 5 schools.
Right.
So you just look at the school that he was at previously, which was Green Bay, and I just completely didn't realize he was at Langston. Shout out to Anthony Roy for climbing this far.
King, Oklahoma State is his 6th school.
Oh, my goodness.
Green Bay, Langston, New Mexico State, went to a JUCO, signed with San Francisco out of high school.
Yeah, my man had been a little bit all over the world.
And he's scored everywhere he's been.
He's been a bucket getter, and it's the highest stage he's probably ever been on. So, listen, he when he gets healthy, Big 12, be on alert. I said it right now.
By the way, speaking of Langston, the great American poet and author Langston Hughes from Lawrence, Kansas.
That's totally relevant to this conversation.
There's just been a lot of Langston
A lot
talk.
of Langston talk.
A lot of Langston talk. Had to throw it in there.
King, what's your next assignment?
My next assignment isn't for a little minute. I'll be in the studio with Peacock next weekend on the 21st. Well, that's a Friday. So on that Friday, I'll be in the studio. And then my next Big 12 game is Florida State at Houston. I think I'm doing that with you, James.
You are. Me and you,
There we
Florida
go.
State and Houston from the Toyota Center, home of the Rockets. Can't
Is anything
wait.
else
The
happening that day?
Toyota Center. Wow, I didn't know it was the Toyota Center.
Yeah.
I thought I was at University of Houston.
King,
That'll be lit.
I'll send you the MapQuest directions, okay? We got to go to the right arena.
Listen, I've never been in the Toyota. Actually, yes, I have. I lied. I've been in there once. I watched a game a little minute ago, but I'm looking forward to that. Calling a game for the Toyota Center. I'm looking for this. Should be fun. This should be a good time. Good time. Good time.
Yeah. Also, the same day as the Big 12 football championship. So, should be a great day of Big 12 football and basketball. All right, King, you're the best. Appreciate you.
Appreciate y'all inviting me anytime.
King McClure joining us here on Big 12 Radio, our Big 12 basketball insider, giving us his thoughts, and he thinks Oklahoma State will be the most surprising team in the Big 12. All right, more basketball talk, including all of the top 25 matchups across the Big 12 this weekend. Plus, we're getting closer and closer to our muffin tasting. You're not going to want to miss that. With James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Radio. Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, and presented by Modelo. cheering you might be able to hear anywhere across the country right now is coming from Dallas, Texas, where it appears, according to Mark Stein from ESPN, that Nico Harrison is going to be out as the GM of the Mavericks. Just some curious timing here because, the whole Luka trade was last year. So I don't know what would have transpired since then that would be the reason behind him being fired other than, what he did last year, which was inexplicable. And maybe is only explicable insofar as, I don't know, like they woke up one day and were like, wow, we really traded Luka?
Wait, did we really trade Luka? Also, they're 3-7. I mean, that doesn't help. And I think as of...
But they have a number one pick and guys that are always injured. Like, this isn't new. Like, none of this is new. I don't know why. What's confusing about this?
Yeah, that's a good point. But I know analytically, through the first, I think it was the first 8 or 9 games, it wasn't this full slate of 10. They're one of the worst NBA teams in the history of the sport. Like, all the metrics and all the analytics, they are so bad, Producer Taman.
They're 8th overall in defense, which is good, but they're ranked dead last in offense. But more importantly, Tim McMahon reported yesterday that apparently the relationship between Patrick Dumont, the Mavs governor, and Nico Harrison deteriorated within the last couple of weeks.
Did you say Mavs governor?
Yes.
Governor?
Oh, yeah. Patrick Dumont. It's not enough to be the owner or the president or the CEO. He's the governor.
The governor. Okay, I like that. I'm here for
He
that.
governs. That's what he does. He doesn't just sit courtside and look like baby Huey. No. He governs.
A symphony of signals from him courtside. I mean, you can't go from making the NBA Finals to having one of the worst offenses in NBA history, not even a full 2 years later, and expect for anybody to keep their job.
Yeah, but they're like a week in. I mean, the worst in NBA history. We'll see if this thing ends that way. But, I mean, I wonder if it's related to trading Luka. Is that why their offense is so bad? Why would you trade?
Sarcasm meter through the roof.
It doesn't help that Kyrie's been injured, and apparently Patrick.
Who could have seen that coming?
See what?
Who could have ever seen Kyrie never plays the entire season, Irving hurt?
Apparently, Patrick Dumont does not like the fact that he is now finally seeing the negativity that is coming from the fans at home games.
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving is easily the most overrated player in the history of the NBA.
My God.
I can't tell if Taman agrees or disagrees.
That is just absolutely false.
Okay.
100% false.
Okay.
Okay, let me read you one little note and then let's get into that. Apparently, a Dallas Mavericks employee was fired by Nico Harrison because he took a day or two to visit his ill mother, who was gravely ill, right? So according to Tim McMahon of ESPN, Nico Harrison fired the Mavericks director of health and performance because Casey Smith went to visit his sick mother. Smith was really tight with Dirk
Can't be doing
Nowitzki
that.
and Luka, and Nico Harrison informed Smith that they needed to meet. Smith said it's not possible because he's gone back to his hometown to be at the side of his gravely ill mother in the final weeks of her life. Harrison set up a video meeting instead and fired him a couple of days later.
Kyrie Irving, by the way, has played in has played in 70 games in his career twice. Okay? 60 games, 1, 2, 3 more times. So he's been in the league for 14 years. He's played in at least 60 games 5 times.
Okay, let me mediate this debate.
There's no debate.
This is a
no debate.
time debate. Now
You got to play in order to be, to be good.
Okay, he has been injury prone. He is also a 9-time NBA All-Star. Taman, your rebuttal.
Yeah, in 2016, he was a major contributing factor of the comeback between the Cavs and the Warriors.
There you go. 1 year. He played 72 games. It's the most games he's ever played. 1 year does not a career make.
He was a major contributing factor for the Dallas Mavericks going to the NBA Finals in 2024. Granted, they did not win it against a very good Boston team, but Luka, as great as he was, does not make that Finals on his own without Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving was just as impactful of going to the finals. Go look at how he played against Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals in 2024. The Mavericks don't go to the finals without Kyrie Irving.
In 2024, he made
50 games played.
He played in 58 games, and he made 3 threes per game, shot 41% from the floor, averaged 25.6 points per game, and 5.2 assists per game. Ari, your thoughts?
Most overrated player in the history of the NBA. He doesn't play.
That is a very tall statement. Most overrated player in the history of the NBA.
He doesn't play.
History.
He doesn't. Yeah. Because most guys that don't play don't get rated, and everybody loves Kyrie Irving and how great he is, and he never plays. Dude never plays.
He has played in 779 games in 14 seasons. So he is averaging a total of 55.6 games played per 82-game regular season. Taman, your thoughts?
Listen, he's injury prone. There's no doubt about it. There was all that stuff that happened during COVID.
Is he injury prone, or is he too big of a wuss to play through it? To play through some toughness?
He tore his ACL.
That's one injury. Yes.
Speculation will not be. Speculation is a no-go in this court. It will not. I will not accept it.
The man shot 2 free throws after tearing his ACL. It was very Kobe-esque. The fact that they got him up off of the ground to bring him to the free throw line, and he sunk 2 easily. The guy is the definition of toughness.
Okay, timeout. Ari Taman just used the word Kobe-esque.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Ridiculous. Those are 2 completely different injuries. The ability to walk with a torn ACL, much different than the ability to walk with a torn
Achilles. Daniel Gafford and AD had to help him off the ground. He couldn't walk.
Kobe?
No, Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, well, a lot of people can walk with torn ACLs, which is why a lot of times...
Can they sink 2 free throws doing it?
Believe so.
Who? I know Kyrie Irving can.
You're typing.
As the moderator here, yes, surprisingly, many people can still walk with a torn ACL, at least initially. It stabilizes the knee, especially during sudden stops, pivots, or changes of direction.
Thank you, James.
When there's a pop, a sharp pain, the knee may give out, but once the initial swelling and shock subside, walking in a straight line can still be possible.
Thank you.
What about Achilles?
James?
Achilles injuries, no. Most people cannot walk normally on a torn Achilles tendon, and when they can, it's very limited and awkward. This is the
Kobe-esque is very inappropriate.
This is the tendon that connects your calf muscles to your heel bone. When it tears, you lose the connection that allows you to push off the ground, the motion that drives walking, running, or in some cases, jumping.
Dr. James Westling, MD.
Good stuff.
Your closing thoughts.
Kyrie Irving. Perpetually overrated.
Perpetually overrated.
But I'm glad Mavs fans continue to wait for him to come back from injury because, the quicker he comes back, the quicker he goes back on the shelf. Back to you, James.
Wow. That was harsh. My final thoughts are get well soon, Kyrie. Mavs fans love you. And #fire Nico.
#fire Nico.
Nico, it appears, is on his way out, which seems like a year too late. And my favorite part about all this is foolish as Kyrie Irving consistently looks with the things that he says, the only person who looks more foolish is Mark Cuban, who somehow has skated by selling the franchise to these nitwits who have then mortgaged the entire future of the franchise, completely alienated the greatest player in the history of the franchise in Dirk, and done that in, a year. And yet nobody's blaming Mark Cuban for his ineptitude as the owner for selling the franchise to these nitwits.
No, he's busy investing in Spanx on Shark Tank. He's got way too much on his plate.
He totally checked out. Mavs fans will always respect.
He didn't check out. He sold the team.
I know, but I'm saying Mavs fans will always respect what he did here. But he could have handled it better. Sold it to a group that was, knew something about the city of Dallas, which the Dumonts, the Adelsons do not.
Respect what about Cuban?
His tenure here. I mean, you have to remember, before Mark Cuban bought the Mavs in the 90s, they were horrible. He bought them up from just from nothing. And so they had 15 straight 50-win seasons. The Dirk Nowitzki era went to 2 NBA finals. Cuban played a large role in that. No, fans aren't going to forget that. But yes, he handled the ending of his tenure as majority owner really, really bad.
I would argue that it was actually the ending of Dirk Nowitzki's career in Dallas he handled even worse than the end of his tenure as the Dallas owner, because he completely sabotaged the end of Dirk's career by chasing big fish who he wouldn't land, and when he did, it probably wasn't the right fish, and sunk consistently NBA draft picks to the point to where they didn't have much young talent. What Cuban did, and no Mavs fans realize this because they're all blinded by, I don't know, Cuban's ridiculous antics, completely sabotaged the end of Dirk's career, which could have been turned into multiple championships and more competition. But instead, he was chasing big fish. And he does what he does, which is exactly what Kyrie Irving does, which is any room you walk into with Kyrie Irving or Mark Cuban, instantly they're the smartest people in every room they walk into.
I agree with everything you said except there at the end, but I think for the most part, the Mavericks were comparing what Mark Cuban did to the previous ownership, which was what he did was way better than the previous ownership, and he did better than what this ownership has currently done in the last 18 months.
Yes, he's not a dead fish.
Right.
Congratulations, Mark Cuban. You're not a dead fish.
He tried. He won championships, and for a long time, the Cowboys, the Rangers, the Stars, they weren't competitive where the Mavericks were.
Championships.
Won a championship.
Which ownership let Steve Nash walk?
Mark Cuban.
Cuban.
But a year later, they went to the finals, and the team that Steve Nash went to did not.
But by the way, he did not screw up Dirk Nowitzki. He screwed up Steve Nash, but did not screw up Dirk Nowitzki until the end, when he completely and utterly screwed up Dirk Nowitzki while, again, being totally arrogant to the stupidity that he constantly shows.
I agree with Ari.
Nobody is more lucky in business than Mark Cuban.
Now, he did land on Luka. Even though Luka got traded, he did land on Luka. Big time landed on Luka.
Donnie Nelson landed on Luka.
It was the perfect send-off.
Yeah. Yes, that. Actually, Mark Cuban wanted to draft somebody else.
Right, and also it helped that Luka didn't want to go to Sacramento and didn't want to go to some of the other places where they were drafting ahead.
And Donnie Nelson convinced him to take Luka.
Yeah.
And then trade for Luka because the Hawks actually drafted him.
Yeah. All right, Big 12 radio, Big 12 today. Didn't expect to take that path here, but yeah, I guess the long, horrible nightmare for Mavs fans is over as Nico Harrison will be relieved of his duties, and I'm sure it will fix everything for the Mavs. At least it won't, but it'll at least satiate the people that wanted him fired.
Well, you know how this ties to the Big 12 is in the NBA last night, Cade Cunningham went off. Former Oklahoma State Cowboy had a triple-double. He had 46 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists. He became the first player, get this, the first player since Michael Jordan in 1987 to have 40-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, 10-plus assists, and 5-plus steals in a game.
And also in the NBA last night, Desmond Bane hit a ridiculous three-point shot for Orlando to win their game. It was absurd, like from 40 feet and falling away. Desmond Bane, the former TCU Horned Frog, with that win over Portland.
Portland, yeah.
You have permission to die now, Portland.
He was such nice Bane reference. He was so good at TCU. And remember, we got more than just 1 year. Like, he was a guy that I think he played 3 years at
two
TCU.
Or three, yeah.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
I don't think he declared for the NBA until his junior year and was a late first-round draft pick, but you could see that he was just a baller.
Yeah. There, by the way, are 7 games this week that feature top 25 teams, including tonight's matchup, a top 15 matchup between Texas Tech and Illinois. Should be a very good game tonight. We also get number 5 Arizona and UCLA this week, and number 1 Houston and number 22 Auburn. So in the Big 12, and also UConn playing BYU this week.
Yeah, loaded lineup.
Tech and Illinois, Arizona, UCLA, UConn, BYU, Houston, Auburn.
4 Big 12 teams in ranked versus ranked matchups this week in college basketball. Fresh off the heels of a KU North Carolina game, fresh off a Washington Baylor game, fresh off Oklahoma State Texas A&M. Got some bangers here in the month of November.
Big 12 Radio, this is Big 12 Today. Heard on Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. We're presented by Modelo. This is Big 12 Radio. This is the Big 12. This is a different league. Thanks for hanging out with us today and every day here in your home for the Big 12 Conference. Tune in Big 12 Studios, along with James Westling, who's dressed today like Huckleberry Finn in 2025 with his... What do you even call those?
These are kill shots, Nike kill shots.
Oh, the shoes I know.
The tan and the baby blue.
Why are you rolling up the pants? That's what I need
Cuffed.
to know.
It's called cuffed.
Cuffed.
It's very trendy, Ari.
Are you in a flood? Are you awaiting a
Stylish.
flood? Is
yeah,
that what
well,
you're-
if there were floods or ants in my pants, I'd be fine.
you'd be in good shape.
By the
So
way, the ant problem has subsided here in the
Good.
studio, which is very exciting.
yeah, that is a good thing. Did you do anything about it, or you just kind of hoped it would go away?
I think we hoped, we willed it.
Yeah.
We willed our team to victory. The ants are gone.
All right, Big 12 Radio brought to you by the Full-Time Fan by Modelo. Taman Turner, our producer, 100% a full-time fan, as he was very animated about his love for Kyrie Irving, who, despite never playing in games, is still Taman's favorite player. And James Westling, we're working on making him more of a full-time fan. He's more of a part-time fan.
I really enjoyed my moderator role during that debate.
I'll be honest.
I think we can do more of that.
You were very good, very strong moderator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, all I'm doing is I'm delivering the facts. You guys debate it.
You had your fact checks. I approve.
Fact checked what you guys were debating in real time. I think we have something there, fellas.
All right, if you're watching us on Big 12 Studios right now, you may notice that James has what appears to be a muffin next to his computer. And from time to time, I like to bring in things that my wife cooks and have you guys sample and try it.
Taman has his muffin.
So these are my wife's fall muffins. These are fall spiced carrot, zucchini, and banana muffins.
Okay.
Yep, all three, because apparently one vegetable wasn't enough.
Zucchini, banana, and what was the other one?
Carrots.
Carrots.
So my wife loves to cook and bake, but she's a little cray-cray about doing everything from scratch, like no shortcuts, no boxed mix. Like she's become obsessed with making everything from scratch. Mm-hmm. And like much to the chagrin of myself, even though the food is amazing, it just creates an insane amount of dishes. And we're about to go somewhere for like a date night, and she's like, hold on, I'm mixing up these 4 different ingredients to make this ridiculous drink that I've got to make before we leave. Like, you go to a bar with my wife, and it's like, all I drink is either Modelo or whiskey straight. And she's like, you know what? This whole concoction that she's trying to describe to the bartender, and it's like, do you have jalapenos, and do you have cucumber juice? It's like, hold on, I've got some cucumber juice in my car. Let me go grab it for you. Like, that's my wife, okay? She's the type who reads ingredients on labels like it's crime scene reporting, okay?
I thought that this muffin was going to taste like regret and shredded carrots,
And
Actually, very good.
but it does not. To Taman's point, this is a plug-and-play muffin. This is a muffin you build a program around.
I'm
This
not
is
even
consistent.
I'm not even a fan of carrots, but this is really good.
Taman, you're a very picky eater.
I know.
We've learned that about Taman.
I don't know that he's picky. He eats like a 6-year-old, it appears.
No lies detected.
6-year-old's also very picky.
Right. So, I mean, and my wife loves to cook, but she doesn't love to eat. She loves more to, I mean, she likes eating, but she loves to feed people more.
Yeah, it's
which
like-
is why she always sends me with goodies to give to you guys. And I'm like, okay, what do I need to know about this? What sort of ridiculous ingredients did you put in this one? I'm just like, I'll eat it. She's like, oh, this has that, the other. And I'm like, cool, it tastes good. I'm assuming it's healthy. I'm assuming it's good for me. But the thing is, like, one time you said something slightly negative about her cookies. You called them dry or something. And basically, like, she hasn't forgotten about that since. Like, my wife is spicy. You know her. She's thick-skinned. But, like, if you say anything even slightly negative about her food, she'll spend the rest of her life plotting to prove you wrong. And that's basically what this is. Like, forever.
I don't remember making that comment. I'm sure it was taken out of context. Was it?
I think it's on tape.
Felt like I was eating a
No,
towel,
I didn't-
but
it
I
wasn't
digress.
me. It wasn't me saying anything. I wasn't reporting it back to her. She heard it live. Okay, so this wasn't like take it out of context. No. It was you called her cookies dry.
I don't
They were
remember
literally fiber cookies, James. I don't know what you want from
They
a
were-
fiber cookie.
Anthony, pull out the tape.
This is not dry. Okay? This is like eating a Dasani. All right, this is good. Also, just to kind of I feel like all of our days in this studio kind of blur together. I don't remember what day it was where you were giving me a hard time about not wanting to hang out with you guys.
That was yesterday.
Which, yeah, that's totally not true, okay? I'm planning a Big 12 Today sleepover. You guys are invited. We're going to play video games. We're going to drink Modelo's. We'll play MASH. We'll hang out. It's going to be great.
Play MASH.
I'm busy that night.
What's MASH?
Do the kids still play MASH?
What's MASH?
No.
Is it MASH, the game where you... I don't know how to describe it. You have like all these different categories and then you count the spots and it's like, oh, you're going to live in an apartment. You're going to live in a mansion. You're going to drive this car. You're going to have this job.
Mansion, apartment, shack, house, MASH.
That's it.
Yep.
What is it? Mansion, apartment, shack, house.
I may be in the minority here, but I thought that was a game played by females. Not that it's got to be exclusively.
Oh, I think everybody plays.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty sure. It'll go with my girly coat that I had the other day.
That was also yesterday.
It all blurs together.
No, so is this a real invite here, or is this for show?
No,
like,
it's a real invite.
Is this another one of those empty things that you're going to do here?
I don't know what you mean by another one of those empty invites. Chill out. Like, you guys are my two best friends. Okay? I'm very social.
Which we know that, by the way, but I don't know that means a lot,
glad I
considering
made
there's
the
a Apple video that was made of you and your best friends. They're all animals.
My wife's phone.
James, you don't leave the house.
Best friends.
It's hard to have friends when you
Best friends, and it's just me and the pets.
That's still. Anytime I want to laugh, I just think about that.
I don't know if it says more about me or her, but her Apple iPhone thought her best friends album should be me and the pets. It's just a bunch of pictures of me and the dog. taking naps with the cat. Taman, do you have the #1 song queued up in America right now?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay.
We can play a little snippet of it.
Just want to
It's
make
fine.
sure. Okay.
This is the #1 country song in America. Now,
#1 according to what?
Billboard Hot 100 digital downloads.
Whoa. Okay.
No, this is legit. Okay.
All right. Let me hear it.
Been beat down, but I don't stay low. Got mud on my jeans, still ready to go. Every scar's a story that I tell. You can kick rocks if you don't like how I talk. I'm gonna keep on talking and walk my walk.
Sounds like a lot of different country music songs I've heard.
Boy, does it.
Does it?
Billboard Country Digital Song Sales Chart. This is the #1 song on this week's Digital Song Sales Chart, according to Billboard and their Hot 100, their country category. It's by an artist called Breaking Rust, and the song is called Walk My Walk.
Yeah, I could have told you that song sounds like it would be called Walk My Walk by a band called Breaking Rust.
Have you heard of this new artist who's taking the nation by storm, Breaking Rust?
I've not. It feels like this is a setup for something here.
You have not, because they don't exist. They're not real people. That
wasn't even a real song you just heard. Wasn't even music.
That was completely AI generated.
That's so scary.
It has over 2 million downloads.
So that's what makes it the #1 country music song.
I don't know. It's just #1 on their digital song sales chart,
Got it.
which,
I believe is quantified by downloads. That would make sense.
yes, that.
See, I hear
So-
that song and I'm thinking, I don't want to hear that again
Sure.
because it sounds like a lot of other songs that I've heard before. And then also, it doesn't really pick up. It's just the clapping and the percussion, basically the entire. Is there even a guitar riff in that?
I think at some point there is, but yeah, it's got the interwebs all worked up.
Okay, so you could argue that it's still music because we literally just heard it, right?
Correct?
And that there's somebody that's plugging in certain criteria in order to make it sound like that. There's some musical talent potentially involved in that, right?
Is there? I don't know.
I mean, I'm assuming like it wasn't just like make the best country music song ever. Yeah, I'm assuming there was some direction musically
Yeah, that makes sense.
by the Breaking Rust guy.
That makes sense.
I wonder if there's genres of music that are easier to make into quality AI music than others. And that's not a knock on country music. I love country music. There's some great country music artists. One that's going to be playing at the halftime show of the Big 12 championship game. By the way, Breaking Rust could never play at halftime of the Big 12 championship game because they're not a real band.
Exactly.
But John Party absolutely can, and he's going to crush it, especially the Party Pit. I'll be there. Will you, James? No, you won't. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm reading more about Breaking Rust.
But the question here is this music, right? Isn't that the crux of the question here? Because I'm sure musicians will be upset by this because of the idea that that's music and that it can be easily created. Now, you could argue, again, there's some artistry involved in making it, but probably not as much as there is when you actually have individuals performing instruments. You know, like Beck is an insanely musical, talented artist, but he basically puts together a band himself. Now, there's a clear line here because Beck is playing the instruments. So he plays the guitar, he records it, he loops it, he maybe makes it sound different. He plays the drum, he loops it, he has his vocals, he loops. So, you know, a lot of artists have done that. I'm not suggesting that that's the same as AI creation, but it's also not completely dissimilar from it.
Sure. Well, the thing that's a little bit scary about the whole deal is like all of the avatars that they use and the video thumbnails all look very realistic. They look like real life human beings having a good time in what is potentially going to be the music video for some of these songs. And like if you look at the album art, everything looks very real. And it took them a while to kind of figure out, wait a minute, this isn't a real person. Like, who is this Breaking Rust? They've got 27,000 or whatever it was at the time on Instagram followers, and the person behind it who's taking credit for it, now there's questions about that person even being real, or is it an internet created AI version of the person taking credit for Breaking Rust?
So there's layers to this.
There's layers.
The band isn't real. The person who makes the band may not be real.
And nobody really knows.
Then there's the person who made the person who makes the band who may not be real. We've got like a Russian doll of music AI mystery here. Let me just recalibrate. The word scary probably isn't properly applied here. Like AI robot living in your house, cleaning your house. That's scary.
Yeah.
Like there are probably 100 things in the AI robot world right now that are scarier than this.
Agreed.
Okay.
It just blurs the line of what's real and what isn't. And that line continues to get blurrier and blurrier and more muddy.
Yeah.
And it's just another aspect of AI entering a world that, you know, frankly, I didn't think we would see so fast. Like, I know you can do these AI-generated songs, and usually they're used for comedic purposes. But now you have people actually listening to this stuff like, oh, yeah, this is a banger. Downloading it, having no idea the backstory or where it came from.
Maybe this is more commentary on people and their love of pop music more than anything else. Maybe this just clinches the fact that pop music is garbage.
You with your Metallica and Tool roots would know right away.
Yeah, Metallica, not pop at all, for sure. But you know what I mean? Like, maybe some of the stuff that hits the top of the charts because people like to download it aren't actually really good music after all. Maybe all this person is doing and creating this is exposing us to how bad some of this pop music really is.
I mean, a lot of you remember the big auto-tune wave where
Yes.
it's like, oh, so-and-so's using auto-tune
yeah.
and this and that, and now it's like everybody's doing that.
Yeah.
It's not even a thing anymore.
No, right.
Right?
Totally.
This just takes that to another level.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, it's just the evolution of music. I mean, when the Beatles recorded music, like think about how different recording devices were. Like there were microphones in the studio that were picking it. I mean, now like everything's plugged in and it's all comes through a digital board. But it used to be like the Beatles had to re-record things if it wasn't completely perfect. Just think about that. And
Yeah.
from the 60s to today, the insane amount of technology advances we've had that have made music production to the point where now a song without any actual instruments being played is number one on the Billboard music charts.
Right, and it has really unified the music industry about the concern over voice cloning and rights. Like Heart on My Sleeve is a song by Ghostwriter 977, which is an AI-generated vocals mimicking Drake and The Weeknd. And then you've got The Velvet Sundown, which is a band that we found out later fully AI-generated over 1 million monthly listeners on certain platforms. So this has really opened up a world that I hadn't done a lot of research on until yesterday.
That's James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin. Thanks to our producer, Taman Turner, and Anthony Smith, our producer with Raycom Sports. This has been Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. We're back tomorrow. Kenny Dillingham is on the program tomorrow. But for now, we're out. Peace.